Yeah,
It's
I mean,
brilliant.
once
It's
you
funny.
get kind of like, sort of focused in on that thing, that's you're gonna run down every possible permutation anyway before the obvious thing of just looking under the bed
Yeah,
to see what it actually is.
definitely. Yeah, your mind goes crazy, and you just can't think. You think of every single, sort of scary possibility, and all it is just a toy that's running out of batteries. It's funny.
I mean, Furbies were particularly menacing anyway, even when they were fresh batteries and out the box. They were
Yeah, yeah,
pretty weird to begin with.
definitely.
I think it is interesting to see how things can scare you, and I think situational things can be depends on the situation. Many years ago, I used to, as a leader in a youth organisation, a uniformed youth organisation, and we'd taken them out, the kids out for a weekend of activities, all kind of out and about. They were problem solving and navigating and all sorts of things, including sort of doing stuff at night. And I'd laid out this kind of essentially an orienteering course, but kind of a bit sort of jazzed up. And at one point, I was walking through with one of the other leaders, through this bit of woods, high up on a hill over kind of in the South Wales valleys. It must have been about 11 o'clock. It was pitch dark. There was no one around. Because we were setting stuff up, we were probably at least a mile away from where the other leaders and the kids were. And we're walking along this path, which is alongside this ditch, through the middle of this kind of pine forest. Good sized path. I mean, the path was at least a metre wide. The ditch was a metre to 2 metres wide. And we're just walking on. We've just gone through over this sort of stone wall, kind of which is part of the path. Yeah. And all of a sudden, something is crashing through the pine forest. Now, this was kind of pine. You couldn't walk through it. It was very closely planted. It was classic pine, lots of branches sticking out. If you wanted to actually move through it yourself, you had to crawl. And something is crashing through this forest, heading towards us. It's pitch black. We were just kind of walking along, essentially minding our own business. We had torches off because our night vision was on. It was well sorted.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we shifted. We shifted really quick. It was like there was no way it was human, because there's no way a human could have moved that quickly.
Yeah.
But it was something pretty big. Now, whether it was a badger, I think it was too fast for a badger, maybe. But whether it was a sheep or something, we don't know. Exactly. It could have been predator. We worked down, wait and find out. We just pegged it. Just because the path was an easy path. It's just like we didn't even talk to each other. We just we both automatically just started down this path. Yeah. We probably didn't stop for kind of at least kind of quarter of a mile, half a mile. It's just like we kind of stopped catching our breath, kind of listening to see whether anything was kind of coming along the path. It was so funny, but if it had been during the day, we probably would have what's that coming down there? We'd have probably seen it was a lost sheep or something.
Yeah,
but
you just figure it out. But in the night, that's it.
No way, we were hanging around.
All of your horror movie kind of potentials came into play and just ran away.
Yeah, we're going to hang around and find out what it was. Just like
awesome.
I think it's one of those things where you realise just how amazing and how utterly annoying the human brain can be. Like rational thought is that it's probably not going to be, some big scary monster that's got superhuman powers crashing through the trees. It's probably more likely to be just something normal.
Yeah.
But that's not the sensible thing that your brain does. It just goes, what's the worst thing we've heard recently?
And it's probably going to be more scared of you than you are of it. Like cows, whilst walking, they are big, massive, inquisitive things. We've got a load of them on the field above across the road from our place. And I'm with the dog. He's a border collie, so they probably think, he's our border collie. So they're just like investigating. And I was with my wife the other day, and Jess was freaking out. She was a bit like, "Ooh, these, I don't trust them." And she's like, can we just get out of here as quick as you can? And they kind of wandered towards us. And I usually just kind of go, treat them. You kind of go like, come here then, and just talk to them. And then they go, oh God, I'm getting away. But this moment, we walked past them and they kind of looked like they could stampede at any moment. And we were both like, oh, actually, I'm a bit worried here. So we just went as quickly as we could past them. But yeah, I'd have to be super confident with a potential predator that happens to be just a 1 ton cow.
Well, I mean, they can hurt people. Yeah,
definitely.
It does happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got another story about that. But first time I ever went camping, we were family camping. It was my first time camping, full stop. I think I was probably about 9. We bought this kind of old-fashioned frame tent, the kind of classic canvas frame tent. The canvas will shrink slightly. So we were going to go on to our family holiday, but we had a weekend away first to test out all the kind of the gear that we'd bought.
Yeah,
and we went to we got our campsite was just a corner of a field next to a cattle trough, empty field, but it was my dad's cousin's farm, because my dad his father had been a farmer. So it was kind of in the same sort of area, and we were kind of going to visit. We went and visited them and other things. And it was fun. It was the first time I got electrocuted on a electric fence and things like that. It was all these little things. We were getting water out of the cattle trough, and it was generally good fun. And we went and visited the cousins, and there were 2 of them. There were 3 people sort of living in the house. A bit of a funny kind of setup, but it was just like we ended up. I've got 2 distinct memories of that particular visit. One, they gave us cake, which was made with lard, rather because they'd run out of butter.
Oh, nice!
And it was disgusting. It was utterly disgusting. The other was we were given a bit of a tour around the kind of the farm near to the house, because we were camping quite away from the house, and we went through this particular field, and there were a bunch of cows. And I remember my dad sidling up to my mum, and I heard him say, we need to get out of this field as quickly as possible because these are not bullocks. Because the cousins had said, oh, come and see the bullocks. And it was a field full of young bulls.
Right.
And it's like, you don't have fields full of bulls. It's just really bad idea. And there was one called Dennis the Menace, and he was just like, we need to get out. And my dad and my mum was like shuffling me and my sister out to the kind of field as quickly as we could. And it's just like, and it wasn't until a little bit later that I kind of worked out that what a bullock was and what a bullock wasn't, and why we needed to get out of the field. But it was just like, they could have gone a bit haywire.
Pretty bad, yeah.
It's just like,
I've got a friend who's a geography teacher, and he says he does Duke of Edinburgh, and they don't let their students walk in fields with cows, which was kind of like, at first I was surprised by, and then I was like, actually, no, it kind of makes sense. He'll do a route and walk it, and he's like, right, we can't go through here, so you have to go round this part because there's, farmers will leave the cows in the field. And totally. I kind of, the ones I just know that the ones across the road from us, I'm probably sure they're used to being hit with like an MDPE pipe, because I've seen that so many times. Like farmers, every time I see a bit of blue plastic piping, I've done a renovation on our place, and I've had like a foot long that I throw for the dog, but I can just somehow in my memory see a farmer just whacking a cow with a bit of blue piping, and like, come on, you! And I think, okay, well, I'll just search for a bit of blue pipe, and then they'll do anything you want.
I just love the specificity of that as well, because the idea that they'll quite happily, the cows will chase after a bit of like a foot long piece of blue MDPE, but if it's white HDPE, they won't go near it.
That's it. I think it's super specific to the cows know that hurts the most, or like a stick won't do, but this or they respond to it like color trained. Yeah.
Well, it's just by the index mark on the type of plastic. No, wrong type.
It's 22 mil, not 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be
PVC
fine.
conduit. I don't know anything to PVC.
Yeah, depends what you've got left over on a farm. All of that farm seems to be. I feel like looking at my workshop now, it feels a bit like the same. And there might be a couple of farmers out there that'll shout at me, but some farmers have that kind of. Well, maybe actually, let's do a comparison. Like we were in the Netherlands this summer, and the farms in the Netherlands, we accidentally got taken on the sat nav down like the path to the campsite. And instead of going on a sort of main road and a couple of roundabouts, we just got on the road the postman takes to like 6 farms. And it was a windy road, loads of farms with acres and acres of sort of cornfields and other stuff. And their farms were amazing. They're like this beautiful big farmhouse, garage next door, everything's immaculate, pristine gardens. The farmer drives out in his kind of Porsche kind of tractor, the kind of that style. Obviously not going to be, but it's like they look after it. Could like
be a Lamborghini.
Yeah, it could be a Lamborghini. Yeah. But in England, it seems like farms are a little bit like my garden looked about a year ago, which is just stuff collected for 40 years, and you think I'll definitely use that. And so Jess and I were like, do they get paid money to keep their farms looking smart, and like is there an incentive for sort of tidying things up by the local government over there? Because over here is just like I will have a yard, they have a yard, and then the yard gets bigger and the sort of fields get taken over with more rubble. It's amazing to look at because I love seeing if there's anything useful, but they don't sometimes half look like dumping grounds. Such a funny comparison that we noticed.
Yeah, I think that's not uncommon. I think a lot of places, you kind of particularly. I mean, there's a farm shop that's down the road. We don't use it very often.
Yeah,
but it kind of it's tidied up over the last. We used it a few times when it first sort of opened, and then we sell a lot of beef there, which we don't eat, and it's just like go in and it's nice and tidy now. But then you look around corners, you go, yeah, this bit's tidy, but just around that corner there. And there's another farm shop that we used to go to on the way to see a relative that often has, particularly at the right time of year, sells asparagus. And we would often, if it was open and they still had some, we would often call in and get some. And it's like, you get little pocket, you get the stall nice and tidy, kind of specifically built. And then it's just like everywhere else, just mess.
Totally.
And every farm, we've stayed on farms for holidays quite a few times.
Yep.
Yeah, Airbnb type things, kind of cottages. Again, the actual sort of cottage, nice and tidy. And then you go for a little wander around the farm. And it's like, sometimes this bit will be that's next to the cottage will be nice and tidy, but you kind of go around the corner and it's just like, broken bits of machinery, and oh look, there's a fridge piled up on that pile of rubble, and
I mean bits of. Go on.
I don't think we can really talk anyway, but because
that's true. Yeah.
Hey, my shelves are nice and tidy. It's tidy there now, and tidy this weekend.
In fairness, if we had a good few acres to play with, we would probably just fill it full of all the stuff that we haven't got around to throwing out, because we've got now space to put more stuff in. Yeah,
I've definitely tidied up the back garden for the first time in like the 8 years we've been here, and I did this project, the outdoor pizza oven and outdoor kitchen, and cleared everything. And a lot of it's down the side of the shed, down the other side of the shed, and in the woods next to us, which we don't own, but I kind of have unofficially gifted myself a little portion of it to store a bit of wood and a bit of other stuff and grass cuttings. So it kind of just spread out a little bit, and I can see how they would do that as well. Or I'd do it in, like, if I had a field, 2 acres and a bit of a barn, then definitely I'd take over that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an ongoing project for us to try and clear out the projects that never properly started or finished that are down the bottom of the garden. It's that kind of, the go-kart that we were given that was in bits. So we thought we'll pull it, strip it completely and do a load of stuff to it. And it got stripped down to the chassis and then left, and then like random tires and stuff that are, were going to become planters and now just a tire stack. All kind of like, yeah, I really should do something, but it's going to be winter soon, so I'll wait till the summer again, and then
should's a tough word, isn't it? Yeah. We've taken. I mean, we're exactly the same, and we've got stuff galore. Conservatory is just packed out. Tinkerage. I went in the Tinkerage this afternoon looking for something, and I just ended up just turning around and coming back out within sort of 2.5 minutes, just because it was just like it's wet out, so I can't get anything out. But it's unworkable. There's no bench space again. Again, because I've been in there for ages. There's been a lot of this thing's been used in the house right now. It's just put on the bench instead of put away, and it's just kind of a nightmare. But we had a close relative pass away in September, and we've been kind of having to sort of get rid of some of the stuff that they left. Yeah. And we've taken carloads to charity shop. Obviously, there's stuff that was of family import, which we've kept, and that's just added to our stuff, of course. But we've kind of taken that. It's just like going, hang on, we've got to do something about our stuff. Yeah, because this is our loft. We can't get in our loft really. There is a bit of a path in there. Yeah, we can get up there. We can stand in it. It's boarded out, but it's just jam packed. The shelving up on sort of the rafters, and it's packed below. It's packed into the eaves. It's just unmanageable. We've got 2 sheds, but we've got 3 sheds. One is nice and tidy because we installed that this year. Put just the garden stuff in there. Yeah, that's nice. It's neat. It's accessible. There's all things in there: gardening things, ladders, the shorter ladders, and the small barbecue. The other sheds, one's falling down. The other one is packed to the gills with the stuff that wanted to be kept safe from the one that's falling down. Yeah. And the garden's a mess. And the tinkerage is stuffed. And it's just like, we've kind of sort of taken the viewpoint now, right, we've got to get rid of stuff. So at the moment, in the boot of my car are, for the last, crikey, how many years? Probably 12, 15 years. One of my Christmas presents has been a Gibson's Christmas special jigsaw. So every year they release a Christmas special jigsaw because I like doing jigsaws. Right. It's like, best part of a dozen of them. It's just like they get done once, maybe twice, that they've been put in the loft. Yeah.
You've got to get them on, haven't you?
I don't know. Yeah. So they're in the boot of the car. They go into the charity shop. Yeah, they can sell them. I've tried to sell them. I put them on Marketplace. Yeah. Not shifting. It's like, right, go to a charity shop. They're more likely to sell them. Yeah, that's it. And then it's out of my hair. It's away.
Yeah, and I've got to do merit in doing that.
And that is something I suffer terribly with but this could be useful.
Yeah, that's it.
This might be useful. And sometimes, downfall. that special screw you saved in 1994, or maybe a bit later for you young'uns, actually becomes useful and it saves the day. But actually,
totally,
I have to. It's a battle. It's a real big battle for me. Of right, you know what? If something breaks, I need that special screw. Well, I'm either going to buy the blooming thing, or we're going to replace the whole thing if it can't be repaired.
So I did the same thing recently. I found dismantling something and found a couple of really, really nice screws. I thought, they're going to be really useful for a few sort of little niche applications for things that I'm doing. So there was only a handful from something that someone else had built. So I was like, I need to find out what these are and buy them. So I've got more in stock and I'm not just relying on the handful of them that I've found. So of course I've got them just in a tub in a place where I know where those screws are for when they are the right screws for the job. Yeah. And of course I've also got a Chrome tab that I opened months ago from when I first found them, discovered they're a particular spec screw and that you can only buy them in bulk. So it's like 56 quid, I think, is the cheapest I can get any of those screws for. And it's to buy like 3.5 million of them. So the Chrome tab is still there, just in case there is a point where I'm feeling flush and want to stock up on some screws.
Yeah.
And I've still got those other ones downstairs in the pot. I know exactly where they are. But I'm not going to use them because there's not enough of them to just use when I need to use them. So I'll find another solution anyway.
Yeah, you'll pick another screw where you've got multiples of. That's it.
Yeah, I can just nip down to the shop and buy a box of 100 for £2.
You guys have touched on this subject like a few times, I'm sure, with various people. It's like there could be a feature, about how you don't organize your workshop, or there's certain things that always get.
If you want to quote the jingle, we'll do it.
Yeah. All my jingles are like the longest. How not to organize your workshop tips by Ollie. Yeah, it's certain things, the ones that you use really often, you'll have a real nice place for, won't you? And then other stuff, it's really difficult to keep. Sometimes oh, there we go. It disappeared for a second, the footage. But
sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it's there's definitely times when you find stuff in the workshop that you thought, oh, I wish, or there's loads of times recently where I've like, where have I put this? And I'm sure I put it in a specific place and it's gone. And then last week I found loads of things that I didn't know I had because I must have been in a hurry putting them away. And I was like, oh, I'll just never use them again. And I'm like, oh my God, that is amazing. I found loads of stuff, like a big sheet of leather that a mate had given me. And it was going to be perfect in a project for a chair that I want to make. And I was just like, oh, sweet. It's like a winner. I was really happy with that because I got a payout of like a really expensive piece of leather that I can use as some cushion sort of material. But most of the time, there's a bit of a battle of thinking, and you guys that's the part of the subject that I was thinking when I was listening to it, I was like, yeah, that's the truth behind it is like, if you don't see yourself needing it really soon, then potentially getting rid of it is more beneficial than keeping it and just filling your space up with stuff.
I think me and Andy both have the same struggle though. Is most of our things, if you had, a Festool, whatever, that you'd bought and just didn't use, that's very easy to resell and for a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
But Andy and I both run into the same problem of the stuff that we've got that just accumulates or takes up space is all stuff that isn't really worth selling. Nobody's going to want to buy it. It's not going to generate any money, and you can't really just give it to anyone else because they don't want it either. Yeah. But then you will probably find some niche use for it someday.
You just can't chuck it in the bin.
Maybe
it's just
So it's that waste thing as well, isn't it? I mean, I mentioned before, we grew up dirt poor, and my dad struggled with tools. The most important lesson I learned from my dad was to use the right tools, and that's only because he didn't have the right tools, and everything was always twice as difficult as it needed to be. Spanners didn't fit when you're working on the car, knackered screwdrivers. Trying to do wood related things with just low grade kit. I mean, not that it was great kit in the 70s and 80s, but just not having good quality kit was just a real burden. And draw bits were blunt, and all the kind of other things. We didn't have the money to buy replacement bits. And I still have that kind of this is something. There's a twofold side to it. There's that kind of that hoarding thing because I know what it's like to have been really poor, and you didn't get rid of stuff. You made good, and you repaired stuff, and maybe one day I'll repair or darn the 20 pairs of socks with holes in the bottom drawer of my chest of drawers. But then there's also that element of for example, in the Tinkerage there is a formula tin, because I used to use formula tins for storing stuff in. Still got loads of them. Formula tins and ice cream tubs, baby formula. And ice cream tubs. Got loads of those because they're great. They stack. Both of them stack. and they're airtight relatively, and so they keep things nice and protected in a fairly damp environment. One of them, formula tin, fairly large formula tin, full of pens. There must be 40, 50 pens in there.
Yeah.
It's like,
Probably none of which work.
No, because a few years ago I went through and I made sure that I got rid of all the ones that didn't work. Yeah. So unless they've become knackered since the last time I did that, because I used to have 2 tins.
High chance there is.
I used to have
When's
2
the
tins.
next process? Are you going to go back again and thin them out again? I can definitely relate. I've done the same. Maybe not as many, but yeah, you go, oh, these ones are dried out a bit, and so
they're really easy to get rid of. But
yeah.
It's like in my desk behind me, I probably have 20 pens, a variety of different pens, but nice pens that I've kind of like using.
Yeah,
probably never used those pens out there. It's like they're too good to throw away because they work. It's like, but who wants?
So here we go then, because as the physicist, you've got a reasonable understanding of the concept of time, and as we know, time can fluctuate.
Yeah,
so. Well, absolutely.
Relatively.
Keep my relatives out of it, you. Perhaps maybe it's just a case of going, well, these pens currently at this exact moment in time do work, but in the future they're going to stop working. So maybe if I just bin them all now, I don't then have to revisit this 2 or 3 or 4.
But then I'm unnecessarily adding to landfill with stuff that shouldn't be going to landfill, which is the other side of the thing that really bugs me.
You're just accounting for the progression of time and just putting them in landfill now together in a bunch, rather than in dribs and drabs over the next 4 or 5 years.
Just batching it. It might be a better use of time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then, that's it. Like everything that is an offcut, it's super hard to know what is worth throwing out and what isn't. And you think, actually, the other week I had it when I was too clean, and I needed something just to mix a bit of filler on or to spray test something or. And you think,
you just need something to pack. You just need something to pack behind something.
And you think, all I can use is like a massive piece of wood, or I'm going to cut a really quite useful square or rectangular piece of wood. I'm looking around. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to use like a piece of oak here. That's the best, worst offcut for when I just need a bit of MDF or something rubbish to chuck in, like to mix a bit of filler up. I suppose, makes you creative, thinking I can use the back of a box or a cardboard box or a piece of metal maybe. Jimmy DeResta
a lot of masking tape town.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, masking tape. I've seen a few people do that with epoxy. Yeah, exactly. Like mixing it up to glue knife handles in. See, that's where I should have thought I'll do that, or have a sacrificial kind of workbench, which I kind of did have a big piece of MDF or an outdoor bench where you can just mix on. But yeah,
I quite like the idea. The Tinkerich definitely hasn't got a sacrificial worktop, but I quite like the idea. Like Laura Kampf and both Laura Kampf and Jimmy DeResta, have kind of operated on that. Right, I'm going to have some 18mm MDF on top of another piece of 18mm MDF. I'm going to just cut on it. I'm going to paint on it. I'm
do
whatever
you need to do.
Yeah, if it gets a bit lumpy, then I just take a sander to it or scrape it. Yeah. And when it gets too cut up that things aren't lying flat, turn it over or put a new one on. And then stick it up on the wall as a work of art.
Yeah,
I like that. If you've got the space, having like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the space, nice, clean assembly table.
Yeah.
Nice kind of MFT style for cutting in that. And then just this messy table in the middle where you cut, you can
glue and paste and kind of paint things and other stuff. Yeah. I'm now down to the base surface, which is I made myself a workbench when I built the workshop. I welded all the frame up and filled it full of random stuff, some which is full of boxes that I've never looked in until last week, and some is full of things like a little filing cabinet full of sandpaper and all the stuff I go to. And then I had like a random piece of black Velcro mat kicking about, and they're about 85. They were about 85 quid a sheet. Now they're probably like 200 quid.
300. Yeah.
If it was birch ply, it'd be like £14,000 to, you know. But I put it on and I never screwed it down, and then I piled up a load of material that I ordered. So we got loads of MDF and just stacked that on top, and then the project never happened, or I changed the build, so I had MDF left over. So I just used the stock as a table and tried not to cut into it, and just sanded and painted on top. And now I've used all my pieces up. I'm down to like actually what could be quite a nice worktop, and I'm kind of thinking, what do I do? Do I just start attacking it, or do I try and protect it? And so maybe actually doing this, the pink, where is it on this side? That pink Jesmonite counter that I've worked on. There's a bit of that.
Ooh.
That just sands off. It's basically like a kind of plastery resin thing. So it'll sand away pretty nicely. So maybe I just keep using it and don't do any aggressive festool cutting. And then it'll sort of have a bit of a story, and I can just sand it back again. Yeah, that's something I'm thinking of in my head. Like, what do? Have I built a bench that I'm too happy to destroy, or too scared to start making things on?
Yeah, I must admit, because we took a similar approach with my workshop's almost like a galley style. You know, it's like a galley kitchen essentially. So there's enough space for you to walk down the middle of.
Yeah. And
then there's benches either side, but they're just covered in crap now. So that's kind of my project for the next couple of weeks, is to try and tackle all that. But we did kitchen cupboards for it, and then did we just split an 8x4 sheet of just Wix's extra special hardwood ply, you know, the cheese grade, awful stuff that's gets under your fingernails and things. So we just ripped that down the middle, and then just did a round over bit. But of course, by the time we, you know, kind of flipped the two pieces over and made the sandwich of it and put it on the thing and everything, and then rounded the edges over, and then we thought, oh, we'll stick a bit of lacquer on, and actually these are quite nice. So although we'd kind of gone in fully with the intention of, you know, replaceable tops that we can just hammer away at and things, every time there's been, you know, like a bit of glue spilling or paint spilling, or like, clean that straight away, get that off, get that back to nice, looking like nice wood again. So it's a vicious cycle of having something that looks nice that then, you know, because you've built it well, versus something you just know you're building to be destroyed.
I like what Peter Millard has done in his.
I think I've lost you.
So I don't.
There we go.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Peter Millard's 10-minute workshop.
I lost you for 2 minutes there.
Oh, we're back now. We're back. Ooh.
Yep.
Ooh, we're back now.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay, so Peter Millard, the 10-minute workshop, he uses, he's big into the sort of tracksaw MFT style top, but he has kind of that, the festool style tip up track. So he has on his worktop, and he's made his own MFTs, and he has just a strip that is sacrificial in the top. So he just places his wood. He's got all this sort of bench dogs, so he can kind of line things up as he wants. But then he's just got this 12mm, 6mm piece of MDF that just gets shredded and just pops out, and he pops a new one in. And because he only ever cuts in exactly the same place, I think that's quite a nice way of doing it, rather than kind of cutting all over the place.
Clever and efficient, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it works for his shop. It's a good size. It's a suitable thing for his shop. It's kind of a relatively small shop, and the nature of how he works and has worked for many years. I kind of I struggle with that kind of. Sometimes you make a nice bench, or you make something that is designed to be used, but it's really nice. But then I think once you've you try and look after it, but then once it does get a bit damaged, something does get spilled on it, it's like, oh well, it becomes a lot easier then.
Like buying a new car and then going and digging it up in a car park just to get the first dent on it.
I was thinking more like artists buying a sketchbook, and you don't want to write in it. So you scribble it, you bend it a bit, and you kind of make it a little bit messy. So then it's like, okay, right, it's not pristine now. I can just do what I like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got a bit of a delay on Ollie, so we'll have to to give him a bit of leeway with jumping in.
Oh,
there we go.
You bet.
Don't know which internet connection is dying off, but it freezes for 30 or 40 seconds. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I've got weird.
That's all right.
Maybe I lost the back end of that. You're saying I caught the last bit where it said once it gets destroyed, that's it. You can sort of make peace with the fact that it's
easier.
Trashed it a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to go driving Jess's Mini into other cars because my van's already got enough crunches on the side of it for me to be. We've got one nice looking car and one like slightly scratched. My van looks pretty good, except for on the left-hand side, there's a few scratches there from like my old workshop where I drove into the wall, literally.
You just reminded me I need to, I bought some, a big thing of vinyl to do the bonnet on my car. Just for, there was so many like chips and stuff in the, like paint chips that had started to rust.
Yeah.
I was treating a bit of rust on the back of the car. I thought, I'll just do that. I'll just do that one spot there and put a little bit of rust converter on it. And I'll just do that other spot there. And next thing you know, I've peppered the whole bonnet.
The whole car.
Yeah. So it's like, there must be 10 or 15 spots all over the bonnet where they put this rust converter on. And then, once you've washed it all off after however long, you've got to put a bit of spray coating on. So I'm just got vaguely near-ish, in the kind of roughly the same color group of like, this is just about grey. The car is just about grey. That'll do. It's incredibly visible that it's covered in weird splodges. So I bought a bit of vinyl to go over the whole lot just so it didn't look too shocking if I had to go to site with the car or something. But that was a summer project that still hasn't happened yet.
That's next summer's project.
Yeah.
You just got to plan them way in advance. That's how I used to do it. Or you need an outrageous deadline. How I now feel like what I have to use to get anything done, which is
it's one of the ADHD strategies, isn't it?
I have found that it did work. So that's the whole reason why I got the garden done, is because Jess's brother was coming from New Zealand. I haven't seen him in a few years. So we were like, we've got to make this garden presentable so that we can enjoy an English summertime out in the garden. She would have been happy with like a turf, £100 worth of turf. But I decided to use this opportunity to further my skills in rendering and block laying and all the things, the concrete worktop that I've been threatening to do for like 8 years. And so spent every spare minute of the day and night doing that when I wasn't actually doing other work. And it worked out pretty good. And Rich I don't think he got the memo that he had to be so pleased with it, because he's just like, yeah, it looks pretty good. And, and I was like, oh man, you know how many hours and weeks I've put into this? It's funny, but it's more
just for me coming over.
He's just like, oh, cool, yeah, amazing, yeah, great, love it, nice work. I was like, thanks very much. So it's the best joke ever. That he's totally underwhelming response, but nobody gave him the memo. Jess didn't say, oh, you've got to be really, really excited because this is a project Ollie's been doing. But I'm
so it was an appropriate level of response for anything else. If you'd stretched it out over several months, it would have been roughly appropriate as a response. But to have crammed it all into a short space of time,
I needed a little bit. Yeah, and I kind of played with putting deadlines in. Some deadlines work, but some deadlines just force an ADHD reaction, which I didn't realize was a coping mechanism from, I don't know, maybe since sort of teenage years, where I'd do the homework the night before, and we didn't see that stuff that I look back on now. I'm like, oh my God, how did we not see that coming? Like, how do we not figure it out? And our parents and I didn't really have an understanding of it back, then sort of, what is it? Something like 15, 19, sort of 19 years ago, when I was like a 15-year-old, I didn't figure that out. And it's so obvious now, thinking, wow, actually, I only got stuff done. I'd stay up all night, and I enjoy working. I enjoy working at night because there's no distractions. There's no one. I can't ring someone for a price for a bit of timber, or more recently ring them about a price for a chainsaw or some other random stuff that I've been thinking about. It basically, shops are shut. People are not talking, and if they are, then you can put them on mute or whatever, and you can finish the conversation later. So working at night's pretty good, but getting a deadline wrong can mean that I lose a few days of to just smashing out the deadline, and then it ruins my actual life for the next week. Apparently it has an impact on our family life, so I've stopped doing that.
Sensible.
Totally, but it's taken me a while to learn that, definitely. Which
do you find
is really good.
Do you find if you put a self-imposed deadline in place, it's harder to keep than if the deadline involves somebody else?
I can always talk myself out of that deadline. Yeah. Like if it's for me or there's a reason, then I'll always chat and be like, oh, well, to me, the rules of sort of deadlines seem a little less, they're more gray area. Whereas if it's somebody else asked me to do it, it doesn't matter if it's big or small, I can usually do that, even if it's in front of other things. That back in the day when I was 2018 or up to 2019, when I've stopped running my own business, that was the problem. That I'd be in the middle of a project that I booked for a month or two, waiting on figuring the designs out and the size, or say we're building like a bathroom vanity unit, and I was just waiting for the stud walls to go up and other stuff like that, and then I can start building it and take it into the bathroom, and it's tiled. And someone else would just pipe up with like another project, like, can you do this CNC stuff, or can you turn this out within a week? And I'm like, oh, well, yeah. And that just was bad for business. You have to honor certain people chronologically, regardless of, that's just how. So that's one thing I didn't figure out. And, I'm keen to have a crack at it again, because I'm slowly trying to get back into the woodwork world. Don't know how I'm going to approach it, really, whether it's going to be any bespoke stuff or just do projects that I want to do and see if I could sell them. And that's kind of a safer way of doing it. But I don't know if I'll be able to keep producing as many things as I want, because if the deadline's made by me, if it's a self-imposed one, then I could always talk myself out of it and let it slide a little bit. So it's a tricky thing that I'm kind of puzzling with at the moment in my mind. That's one thing that's,
the struggle is real. I know that's a similar thing I tend to struggle with, of, trying to do something for myself. It's very easy to make that slide in favor of helping someone else out. Yeah, it's kind of been an ongoing battle for me, is to try and figure out a sensible priority for things rather than just and
like the projects that you think you want to spend the time on, and you're like, actually, you could give yourself a week off and say, I'd love to do this if I had a week off. And then you accidentally find yourself, or I accidentally find myself with like a day off, thinking, hang on a minute, I can't do XYZ because the material's not here, or actually I'm just not going to be able to get that done because I'm waiting. I could do it in the night or do it the next day. Yeah. And I always find that those days sneak up on me, and I'm like, actually, I could have, maybe someone else could have figured out they're going to have a day off on that Tuesday, and they would have prepped for, I guess I'm not shy of materials, but it's just the other prep stuff you have to do for a project for yourself.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then you look back on that day and go, I could have done so much more.
Yeah, you kind of think, I should have been.
What did I actually do today?
Yeah.
I'm feeling attacked now.
I'm attacking myself. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I reckon there might be an element of that, in maybe there's an element of that in neurotypical people, but there's definitely is with, I guess, neurodiverse people that you've got that. I find that difficult to see coming, and always did. I was like, we're going to go on holiday, and I'd always work right up to the last minute, and then I'd be useless on holiday because I'd literally need that time to recover before I could be a human again. So it's been massively different in the past couple of years, but before then, I didn't know that was happening, and I'd kind of like have a burnout and not see it coming.
So what changed in the last couple of years? Was it down to the pandemic, or?
I guess probably a little bit of that, or maybe it was about 2018 to 2019 when I fell out of the love of running my own woodwork business, and then I was just like, actually, there's a whole lot of things that aren't going right. And then at that time, that's when Jess was saying to me she could do some more help within her ring business, in the jewellery business. And that's kind of when we launched, when the lockdown stuff happened, we launched the Flynn and Steel brand of the stainless and titanium wedding rings, when I'd basically given up on woodwork and come full-time working with her. And I think from then then I've done a lot more learning because I've understood. I look back at the couple of years before and think, hang on a minute, that was what wasn't working right. So therefore I need to change to do something. And then having a different approach. Like I didn't have customers emailing me directly saying, can you do this? Can you do that for like tomorrow? It was through Jess or through Amy and the team that we started to grow a little team. So it was kind of, I was protected from being that yes man of just being like, yeah, of course we'll get it done. I could stay up all night. And so, yeah. And then that's grown, and my learning and understanding about how my brain works and how you should approach things as an ADHD person has definitely improved. Sometimes it's been bad, like sometimes I've not seen it coming, and I've gone back kind of to a point where I'm, I'll have like burnouts, but hopefully now I can sort of manage that a bit better through the skills I've had over the past couple of years of, I guess, experience.
Once you understand what it is, it gives you that chance to account for it next time, and it's being able to spot those patterns in yourself. I think is it's a difficult skill to learn. I think.
Yeah, it's definitely taken some time to even just figure out what a sort of hyper excited build up to a project could look like. And then I'm like, actually, I'm going to burn out pretty bad on here if I just keep going ahead. So I'll just pipe it down a little bit and get to bed early and start again the next day, like your average person would do, rather than just think I could just keep going and it'd be great, I'd achieve it, but then it'd snowball.
It's the equivalent of like eating all your sweets and popcorn while the trailers are being shown and not having anything to eat while the movie's on.
Yeah, definitely. Which actually popcorn goes too quickly, to be honest. Sitting watching the last couple of films I've seen at the cinema, I've definitely smashed that popcorn before there's been anything on the screen.
But at least then you're not disturbing other people by chomping on popcorn during the main feature.
Yeah, true.
You go look at the positives.
Yeah. What's that equate to in an ADHD burnout? That you're quiet because you're asleep for a week.
Yeah.
So the other people that you were bothering the week before have got a bit of headspace.
Yeah, you give everyone else a break by burning out.
Yeah, totally. I think that kind of it does happen, and is probably pretty useful for the neurotypical people around. They just when people are quiet, they kind of go, all right, wow, this is that was intense, but thank goodness they've chilled out.
But have you ever found that it's actually been obviously not the burning out, but the kind of the ADHD? useful in terms of either productivity or creativity?
Yeah, I think it's always helped creativity, but then it was on like I'm still actually this week I felt like it's helped creativity, but I've been like on a knife edge of thinking there's like a cliff you can fall off into, sort of I couldn't achieve all of those, so therefore like you get a bit sort of not depressive, but I have been in the past where it's knocked me off balance, thinking, hang on a minute, I'm never going to be able to achieve these 10 different career goals or paths that I want to do or be. But definitely now I'm trying to, the more I learn about it, the more it can become like a superpower, and I can use that, because I suppose most makers can watch a video or have a demonstration from another person. You guys will be the same. You learn through seeing it being done, having a go, and then that becomes like you just absorb that skill, and that seems to be where I found the strong point of the ADHD sort of powers, is that I can research if needed, or watch more YouTube videos, or ask more people, discuss it, think really hard about all the minutiae, and then be like, right, okay, that's pretty much the best way to do it. And then you've absorbed that new skill, which is pretty cool.
It's like a slow version of the Matrix, plugging the thing in the back of the head, isn't it?
I literally thought that as I said it. Yeah, it's a kind of slower, more drawn out version. But it pretty much kind of happens like that, I guess. Yeah, you're like, I want to do this. Here's a project. There's a reason behind, or you've talked someone into letting you do something, or making a project for them, or just for yourself. And then you say, right, I'm definitely going to do that because I want to learn this skill. And so that now to me seems like a really nice approach to do it. I've just got there's probably a couple of checklist points that I've got to check to be like, okay, if I'm doing this, does it interfere with the other things that are going on in my life, like family and getting paid and other stuff like that? And so that's where if I've got that checklist, which I'm still writing, actually, I'm still building it and getting it signed off with Jess to make sure I don't go off the rails, one time, and spend a week in the workshop. But I think, once we've worked out the correct mix, then I can be like, okay, well, I want to learn this skill. So therefore it was kind of the same with the outdoor kitchen. I was like, actually, I really want to, I've done a bit of bricklaying in the past, really love to do it and have this finished piece where I've made a concrete worktop and I've rendered it so it's waterproof, and just then I've got something to enjoy afterwards for myself, and I don't have to go through that sort of chat with someone that you're like, yeah, I could do that as a client project, and then you get all the stress of basically making no money because you've spent too much time on the job. And it's perfect. And Siri's on again. Hang on a second. this laptop. Yeah, so that'll be a nice thing to do in the future, to explore skills or do a project just because I want to take a deep dive in it, but like a safe deep dive to allow me to master it, but not cost too much money or break the bank or take too much time out of what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of merit in setting those kind of expectations for yourself and those goals for yourself, and then those sort of boundaries that you don't want to cross then for yourself as well.
Yeah,
to be able to give yourself that sort of limit, to explore something in that kind of safe way without, say, slipping down a potential rabbit hole. And
that's it. Yeah, it's knowing that, like, now I know that there's got to be a set of rules that I'm yet to determine, and I'm working on those as I do other projects, thinking, actually, right, if I'm going to do just an exploration project and film it and create a video behind it, what can I and can't I do? Compared to, say, 2017 to sort of 19, where I was running the business as well, I was kind of like, well, I actually really want to do this, making some bespoke wardrobe and learn how to spray. And so I just kind of did the maths, but in my head, I don't know, I did, do the maths as well informed as you can to tell the customer how much it'll cost. But then I didn't account for things such as just it taking extra time and that learning process. there's a payoff, a trade-off if you're going to learn something, so you've got another skill that you can then offer again in the future. And you can say, I could definitely spray those wardrobe doors to the next customer and it'd be more efficient and you make more money, you make more profit. But there's other things going in the mix that I didn't see that were clearly related to ADHD. And I was just like, maybe distractions and too many other stuff that you throw in the mix. So I'm excited to get that set of bullet points down and think, actually, that will allow me a really safe but creative space to keep developing as a maker and as a designer and someone who's creative, because that is actually what I love doing, and making things, as we all do. It's the learning, it's the anticipation of what's going to come out. Is it going to turn out all right? And the other skills you'll learn along the way, or the people you'll chat to, or the random things you find, whether that be materials or screws or stuff on the side of the road. That's the excitement.
I keep hoping to find something decent.
Hopefully there's a few other people out there.
There's a van that goes around and just trawls all the streets for anything vaguely useful. There's been like bits of a couch and bits of an old bed, and that's about all there's been around here recently. Oh man, it's really annoying.
That's pretty harsh. You have to go to the really affluent areas. That's what I've found.
Yeah,
there's a house up the road, and outside they've dumped a bunch of stuff. There's a metal pedal bin, and there's a bathroom kind of metal shelving thing, kind of draining that wants to sort of drain, and there's also the motor and stem but no head from a steel head trimmer or strimmer. And it's just like, I've seen that twice now in the last 3 days. And it's like, I wonder if that could be made to work. But it's like, and there's a bit of me that desperately wants to just, once we finish tonight, go walk up there and just pick it up and bring it and just put it in the garden and put it in the shed. And that'll be a project, and that can be used to power something else.
The only thing, if you're going to put a wooden spoon in it and use it in the kitchen or for some kind of baking, then great. If not, just leave it there. Don't add it to the mix of other stuff.
It's just like
6 foot whisk,
petrol
powered in the kitchen.
It's taken all my self-control. It's taken all my self-control to kind of leave it there because I've got so much other crap already that needs to be got rid of. And I haven't got the time to deal with or to use. And I haven't used some of it, and that there's just, I mean, the some of the things I've got in the shed is unbelievable. Some of the stuff I've got, and it's just like, I need to. It needs to go. I need, and the same with the tinkerage. I've a few times this last kind of this year particularly, I've thought, like electronic stuff I've got. I've got tens of thousands of components that I've collected over the years. Some of which were bought new, some of which were just collected and scrounged from other places, and I'm just like, for the amount of electronics I do. Like, I should just generate the space. I need to generate the space, get rid of the stuff, generate the space, keep some of the good stuff, get rid of some of the rest, just generate space so that I can actually go in the tinkerage. And there is space to, I mean, there's one bit, it's just stuff full of nice bits of wood. And there's another bit of stuff with metal, and there's another bit that's stuff with tools. And I need to get rid of the tools that I can't use anymore, or don't want to use anymore. But it's finding the time to do that and finding kind of the problem. I get this, and I've mentioned this before. I get that problem of I go in with the intent to get rid of something, and then I go, but could be useful. Oh, there's so much potential in that.
Maybe there's
I was just having a look to see. I can still see the box that you sent me a couple of years ago, Andy, when you last had a clear out of your electronic stuff, and you sent me a tub full of bits that were no longer useful to you that might be useful to me. And that package was opened. The Welsh cakes you sent with it were scoffed almost immediately.
I was going to say, thank goodness,
was
they might have gone off by now otherwise.
I opened the tub, went, oh, cool, that's the stuff that Andy sent me. Closed the lid and put it down there, and it hasn't moved since.
Nice. I think maybe there's I was thinking of an opportunity for like a swap meet at Maker Central, but then it'd just literally be the NEC would be full of stuff.
We have suggested that as before for like neurodiverse makers.
Yeah.
To just have like, being able to swap when you've had your 3-month run of going completely down the rabbit hole, buying all the tools, all the materials, all the books, all the everything for the project.
Yeah.
Trying it once, realizing it wasn't for you, and then just what the hell do you do with it then? Yeah. So the idea that neurodivergent people could then jump onto the app.
There are Facebook groups exactly for that.
Yeah. Right. Amazing.
There we go.
I'm definitely not going to go on it. I'm not really a Facebook kind of person, but it could end up really bad because if there's no police of like, oh, I definitely need all this stuff, and I'll swap you for like one box of a tiny box of little stuff. We'll all end up with way more stuff. If it costs money, then it means that there's a sort of barrier there to entry because you just have to figure out, you have to talk yourself through that entry barrier of spending your money.
I think you should only be able to swap an entire, entire hobby for another hobby. It's just like, right, here's an entire kit for doing electronics. Let's swap that.
And now you need to swap it for pen turning or something like,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And you just swap that whole kit. Like if there's not enough to do the job, then you have to just wait, build that up. And then, but then as soon as you've built that tool set up, you're like, this is pretty good. I'm going to get back into pen turning again because
the idea is
you make a bunch of pens.
If you've got the kit to be able to do the project, and you've had a go and you don't like it, then you could pass that entire kit onto someone else, and then it'll probably come back around with the same materials and additional extra stuff at some point in the future, and you'll go, oh, I'll have another go at that.
Brilliant.
I think there's some merit in it.
Yeah. That works.
Oh, yeah.
There has to be like a size limit, I think. It must be contained to one pallet size, so that you don't end up with someone trying to swap like a 6-foot engineering lathe.
I was just say standard square pallet or the double length pallets. Yeah, the 8x4 pallets.
If it fits on a Euro pallet, that'll do.
Yeah, push it to an 8x4 pallet just in case. Yeah. You can pay for the extra haulage if it hangs over. That's the danger.
I was certainly at Maker Central 2019. A few people had taken along kind of a tub of tools and things that were basically like, I've got more than I need here. If someone wants something, they can take. Because I know I've got
this year. I got rid of a laser and a 3D printer. So hand them out to friends.
Really? Wow. Yeah, mate, that's pretty awesome.
I hadn't used them for far too long.
Always wanted to sort of get into laser since using some at uni, and I was, but I've never made the leap. I know James has got a K. Is it a K40? And I'd looked at those years ago and thought, I kind of got quite close to getting one, and then we just didn't end up getting one. And I think you can get laser heads you can fit on the CNC, so that might be a way to go. And I might try that if there's like a compact, non-mirrored setup, because the mirrors and the sort of that just put me off a little bit. Whereas
diode lasers have come along in the last couple of years. Diode lasers have massively improved. In what's available. I mean, there are issues with the diode lasers. A lot of them are open. So there's issues with fumes. There's issues with potentially beam, just reflecting off. Yeah, you've got to kind of, you need to think about kind of enclosures, eye protection,
fume
extraction and the like. But in terms of kind of cutting ability, they've come on massively.
Amazing.
what they can achieve and how thick a thing they can achieve in just something that will fit on essentially on a CNC instead of the spindle.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, there's some amazing ones available. But
I will have to have a look.
Yeah, it's definitely. A laser's definitely on my kind of wish list.
Yeah, mainly for engraving timber, and that's kind of I'm thinking on finishing off a piece of wood, a project. You just laser on a logo or laser on something. I guess cutting thin material is definitely, but then the CNC would probably do that to what I need it to anyway. But yeah, they are fun pieces of kit to just cut out loads of plastic for prototyping and making models of other stuff. Maybe I could brand it that it'll help the kids further their design, DT career, and they'll get better marks for it. And then we'll just have to get one. Yeah.
Make it. It's like, Miss, is it all right if I do this work at home? She says, but he's a laser. Yeah, that's all right, Miss. Don't worry, we've got it.
But like, don't worry, Dad's got a robot in the shed and a laser and some other kit. Yeah, that's one thing I'm excited about being able to offer is the tools, like you were saying that your dad had not the right kit, and I think my dad had some kit, but back in the 80s, 90s, there's like the Black & Decker circular saws were like literally this thing that was bolted onto the side of a drill. I can see the same thing that you've described in a previous podcast, and I'm sure my dad had one of them. And I think I stole his green Bosch planer that he bought to renovate the dining room table and like loads of pine furniture and floorboards when they were renovating a house when I was up till about, up to sort of school age. And then I pinched it when I came back from uni and started building things. And and so now if I can have those tools that the kids can use, then that's really exciting to me to be able to pass that on to my children, and they can come in here. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And they're slowly getting, sort of interested. But it'll be when they become sort of young teenagers that it'll be awesome that I can say, right, what's your project that you want to make? And we'll have a crack at it.
Yeah, I've used the 3D printer for that, for doing various kind of bits for kids projects and stuff. Yeah, I think having that kind of that access to something that we didn't, is a really powerful thing as a parent.
Yeah, and they might not be super keen on making, but it'll just be there in the back of their mind that it will then change them as people to be more resourceful. Yeah, and maybe they know that they know they can make. It's just an understanding, like we talk about materials already at sort of the age of like 6 and 4, and that's something that I had a little bit about because my dad was a furniture. He owned a furniture shop, and so I knew some stuff, how things, not really how they're made, but just that things were made and could be sold. And then they were renovating houses like we've kind of done. So I got that sort of get stuck in mentality and building, sort of passion for building and renovating houses and projects from my parents, because I guess when I was growing up they were constantly fixing the house and doing stuff and building a bit of an extension as an art studio, and so that shaped me, and I'm really excited to see how me making stuff will be an example for shaping what the kids get up to. That's super interesting.
Totally. Well, the familiarity. I mean, I can remember when I started kind of in year 7, first year as it was back in my day, and we had a term at the time with different crafts. So over the course of the first 2 years, we had textiles, home economics, metalwork, woodwork, pottery. There was something else as well, and just that kind of going into the kind of woodwork workshop for the first time, and the very first lesson was these are tools. I think I was the only one that knew all the tools. I already knew the different types of chisels, different types of saws, and I already knew them because we had shed loads of books, and I just devoured every book that we had in the house. And some of those were books on workshops. And having that familiarity with what those things were and what they could do, and having picked up a chisel, I hadn't really used a chisel, but I knew how to hold a chisel and what to do with it, and rough, but wasn't good, but I knew how to hold a saw and how to use it, and that was such an advantage over some of the my kind of peers. And you'll do that with your own kids if they're used to just going in and you take the time to go, right, let's go, it's Saturday, let's go and make something, mum's gone out, we're gonna make something, and let's go and what do you want to make? Right, we're gonna make a bug hotel, we're gonna make a bird box, or we're gonna make that, and right, what tools should we use? We'll do that. Okay, we'll put that on the CNC and we'll do this by hand, and we'll if you get the laser, we'll do that on the laser. Right, okay, we're gonna, and they'll go into DT and tech in year 7 and kind of it's like I can do that,
totally. There was I think a make a clock project that's going on after school, and I think it was only open for the year above the oldest one, and I thought, no, she could do it. She's got the creativity, she's always drawing, so I'll ask the teacher and say, hang on a minute, she's not going to be a hindrance to the rest of the class, she'll hopefully add a little bit of something, and why not chuck her in? She knows other children in that year, the other years anyway, so it's not going to be, I guess it's stopping. There's a barrier of certain age limit where if they're going to, they literally just need to concentrate on a final design or something like that. But I think she could easily do it, and it would improve her design tech skills for the next year. And so I'm keen to be that annoying pushy parent of like, I think my child could do this. So regardless of what you are as an education professional, I need you to do this for me, which might be annoying for teachers. Yeah, I'm sure you've had that in the past, Andy.
Sure no,
it's
as well.
Probably.
No, I haven't, because we didn't send our kids to school, not until they got to sixth form.
All right, wow.
I think there are annoying. I can remember one parent who was really pushy about wanting their son to get much harder sort of science work. I was like, when I retorted his back and said, well, when he completes the homework he's been set, I'll think about giving him extension work, but until that time, no, he's not getting extra work from me. Don't tell me that he's bored. He can do that. And then we'll progress forward. Yeah. But I think, certainly the viewpoint I was took with things like kind of particularly like the extracurricular stuff was, if somebody's able, if somebody's willing, I'll take them on. I did for many years. I did First Lego League, which building. It's got multiple parts to it, but it's building a robot which has got to take part on a competition field, and there's a project, and you have to kind of build stuff for the project and do presentations and things like that. And some of the kids that got involved were ones that kind of just didn't quite fit in elsewhere. Some of them were super geeky about Legos, some of them super geeky about robots, some of them just struggled to fit in other places. But as long as they were willing to work together, as long as they were willing to be nice to each other, as long as they were willing to try, they had a place. That was the sort of limit on it. Didn't matter if they had, did have some were kind of a bit pushy about things, but if they were willing to work together, there was occasionally I'd sort of say, look, the way you're behaving isn't acceptable in this environment, so you need to think again, or you're out. But more often than not, it was just like, this is a safe place, unlike class where everyone has to be there because there's a register and things. This is an optional place, and we can do interesting things. We're going to do our best. You're going to do the work. You're going to do the development work. Because there are issues with kind of, in my opinion, First Lego League, there are issues where, and other competitions too, where staff are doing the work that kids shouldn't. But
we did that. I was one of those nerds in the chemistry club at school, and we did a project on plastics, and it was a national competition and stuff. And we ended up coming third in the end. and it was very clear which were, you know, kind of schools that were producing work or presenting work, sorry, that was the kids' work, and which was perhaps not the kids' work.
Yeah.
He's fighting with the robots. He's fighting these super advanced robots. It's like this is a primary school, and they've got something where the interchangeable bodies and heads and mechanisms that are way advanced. And there's a member of staff who always collects the robot and carries it away and kind of is guarding it. And then he's sat at a computer, kind of checking things on the kind of programming. It's like, okay, yeah, who's doing the work here? I'm not bitter about stuff like that. to be honest, it's good if the judges are good. And I have spoken with judges about this, and they've kind of gone, yeah, we know when it's the things, and they might score well because there's multiple multiple sections. They might score well on one section, like the robot, but in the other sections, they will get penalised, and it's easier to penalise them if it's clearly not the kids' work. Yeah,
that's good.
But giving the kid, I think, as a parent, giving your kids the knowledge about something, whether it's making, giving them, even if you don't give them necessarily, if they don't take up making as a career or as something they particularly love, but it's just something they're exposed to. It's normal.
Yeah, definitely.
And they'll just kind of go, it might not be when they're 40, it might be when they're 24 or 34, and they kind of go, actually, I'm going to, we used to do that stuff, making stuff with Dad and the CNC. I'm going to get myself one of those now.
Yeah,
because I fancy doing something.
It's
I know it's achievable.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. It might not. They might not become makers, and I've just got to hold that, really close up and say they might not be as interested as I am until further down the line. But at least putting those sort of ideas out there, or that knowledge that I can impart, and then they can they can use that and figure out how they can implement it in their own lives or in their own school or projects and other stuff. Yeah, it's exciting. It's good. I didn't realize that's what would be the real fun thing about being a parent, that you get to share that with your kids now. Now they're old enough to figure out what you're up to and constantly ask, like, what are you building, or what do you do at work today, or what have you been up to?
Yeah. How does that
two-way
work?
Conversation. Yeah, it sometimes works all right.
As a question is that, what's that thing you're doing? How does it work?
Otherwise,
actually,
in that response, it can take you down a rabbit hole, can't it? Of like, you spend 3 hours. The best ones are when they say, "How does that work?" and then you explain it, and then they go, "Oh, look, a squirrel."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh man, I just thought you were going to become this next maker and be like a prodigy at 7, and then you get like something else happens." Or
YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers in the next 6 months. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
you're getting all the nods in the right places and asking the right questions, and then just go, okay, but I'm hungry. Can I have a snack?
Yeah, I need a peanut butter sandwich, or like I demand food from you now, and you're like, I know my place. I'll go straight back to that kitchen and get you some food. Damn. Thanks, child. Yeah,
I was having fun explaining that.
That's it. That's parenting, which they don't tell you about. The massive highs, massive lows.
Yeah, and it carries on. Yeah, even when they're older.
You get to get them back when you're your age, don't you, Andy? You make food. You do the things.
Yeah, I do. Basically, I as long as I provide them with food, I'm generally acceptable as a human being. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but awesome. They have their own lives now. Yeah, it's like own thing to do. It's but I think normalizing making and normalizing the idea that things are made I think it's such a thing that's missing, perhaps, out of certain parts of society.
Yeah,
and I think seeing the rise of the maker movement and the rise of the YouTube maker movement, I think is a good thing, and it is good to see younger folk, that are coming into the kind of the arena and making stuff. And you watch like Handmade on Channel 4, the Best British Woodworker or whatever it's called. And you see kind of people that are kind of 19, 20 years old taking part and producing fantastic work. And you think, and you go, actually, if you go into schools and you see what some of the young people are making and achieving, if they've got a kind of, particularly like with tech, and if you've got a good tech department who are keen to motivate and sort of see, not just kind of fulfill just for the sake of exams, but actually kind of go, oh, this is really good. Have you thought of entering Young Engineer of the Year award? This is, we're not, you're not just making a little bookcase. You're going to make, you're making this thing that's kind of got a bit of electronics in it, and you're using a variety of materials, and it's just that cut above, and promoting those different ways of doing things where you kind of go, you're good with your hands, you're good with these things. Have you thought of, we don't normally do this, but how would you like to come along at lunchtime and I'll teach you how to use the lathe? We've still got one, and we don't normally let kind of people below 6-1 use it, but or with who haven't got their own one at home. But would you like some training on it? Because I think this could benefit, your project could benefit from a turn piece. And when you've got staff like that who will then promote, but I think if you get, having kind of worked with technology departments and in a technology department, you get those kind of students that come along and go, I've been doing this bit of electronics at home. And it's an advanced bit of, it's a microprocessor. Or I've got my own lathe, and this is something I've made. And it's just like, it's magical, to be honest. When you see that happening and young people are coming through, and it's not just you're delivering something as the teacher and sort of saying, right, okay, and there's this machine and it does this, and there's this machine that does this, and right, I'm going to show you how to use this tool, and you do that, and they're kind of like, okay, obviously I know what a saw is, but I've never used one before, or I know what a file is, but I've never used one before. So that's not. It's nice when you take somebody and kind of show them a new thing, and they do it. But when you got somebody that comes in and goes, I use that. I make my own model railways. With my dad, or we've got a workshop and we do this sort of stuff, and it's just like, cool. Let's see what we can, what you can take that. It's nice to know that there's going to be that next generation of makers coming through
that are interested in what you do or using that and getting that skill. It's sort of, I can see now why when I'll sort of walk around. I've done it a few times, walking around Sheffield, and there's sort of a turner's workshop and a old boys making random things, and I kind of go in and say, and sometimes if they're not too old, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is what we do, cool, just give us a call, see you in a bit. And if they're of a certain age, they'll just invite you in and show you the whole place and spend half a day just chatting with you, because they really want to give that sort of next, they're just so excited to see somebody who is of a younger age. They're like, right, I'll give you all this information. You can go ahead and be buzzing about, wood turned legs of chairs and other stuff, or steel fabrication or other things like that. That's close by to me.
I mean, Sheffield. I mean, it's a relatively big city in the UK. I can't remember where it fits in the kind of the number of the biggest city. It's quite a big city, but it has an amazing heritage, industrial heritage.
Yeah, definitely.
And is that something? And although kind of I don't want to get political, but the kind of how the industry has changed over the last probably 30, 40 years. in areas like Sheffield and the other kind of steel areas, for want of a better phrase.
You guys
has
were mentioning
massively changed. Yeah, but do you think that because that heritage is still there, do you think that is something that creates a kind of positive environment for makers in the area?
Yeah, I think so. I think that maybe because there's other areas that haven't. I guess it's got like a unique mix of that. It was fairly well connected. Like I remember you saying, you guys were chatting. Who was it? It was about 5 episodes back. It was all about you talking about mainly. You guys have all come from places where steel works have been. In Wales and northeast and I suppose Wales, some areas of that it's died off because there was no direct links to other bigger cities, and so there's kind of things like being close-ish to Manchester and Leeds, and that's sort of driven a bit of city, university kind of. There's a few other reasons why it survived, but I feel like specifically in Sheffield that there now is sort of people are aware of that heritage. Like, someone's mentioned Shop Dog Workshop, Sheffield Steel. There's been this big importance or sort of understanding of the heritage there that maybe other places haven't been able to kind of keep hold of or show as well. And so even now there's sadly, there's probably that gentrification, I guess you'd call it, of places that were former cutlery works and they're now like university accommodation, or couple of the best bars actually are ex-cutlery factories. And then they've used the names of like Saw Grinders Union and made up a kind of conglomerate of a few, but there's still a few good factories. Most of them are becoming flats, and then the actual factories that have survived in the 70s, 80s, 90s, they might have moved out and gone into more of the new industrial estates. So they've got a more modern set of buildings, but then there's an original part of the city in Kelham Island, which is kind of now one of the nicest places to. It's the most hipster place to live and to go out drinking. I've got a friend who's got a flat there, and I'm sure he paid a bit more money for a smaller flat than he could have done for a house somewhere else. But he's the kind of guy who's in and out of Sheffield for work, and when he is in Sheffield, they go up to some of the nice bars. That are a good mix. They're like a nice mix of an old building with some real nice fitted bar elements and seating area, but then you've got like really awesome exposed beams and other such. That's kind of a nice vibe rather than a kind of lifeless, just somewhere that serves average drinks. These ones they're making a point of making it something special. And then you've got
burger on a piece of slate and
and there's a I think I haven't been for a while, but there's a steam engine that goes maybe every lunchtime every day, or it's on the weekend they do a tour around the Kelham Island Museum, and there's loads of cutlery on display and loads of blades and knives and other stuff they've made. I haven't been for ages, but it's one of those ones where if you're kind of like a new tourist to Sheffield, you can go and have a look. And I think it's pretty big even in the average student studying something completely unrelated to making. They're aware of that history, and they know that you can kind of feel it in the vibes of the businesses and the universities that have adapted and adopted that to their buildings. Maybe some buildings are just skyscrapers that have been thrown up because of the university needs some
accommodation
building
and buildings.
But others they've kind of tried to keep architecturally and reference that as a cutlery factory. So it's nice, and I think it's influencing the people around. Like, at least I saw a lot of Kelham Island as a student, and just after being a student, that it was still industry and it was still businesses. And I think there's a couple of people who are running places that are for work, workshops for makers. One landlord was kind of like, "I'm not letting the developers have this." He said, "No chance. We're keeping this as a proper factory." And he said it could be making anything and it could be rented to other businesses, but he's just like, "I'm not selling this to become flats." which is pretty cool. I don't think you get that potentially anywhere else. They might just say, well, I can make a lot of money, so let's sell this knackered old building.
Yeah, and a lot of that happened in Liverpool with the sort of capital of culture back in 2008.
Right.
There's like 5 main developers who just own all of Liverpool now.
Wow.
And they just kind of went, in the run up to the capital of culture, they just went and sort of forced a load of old local businesses out of their, the heritage, like these dock buildings that have been there for 150, 200 years, that have had the same kind of family run little business in there for, several generations and stuff. And it's like, no, well, off you go. We're going to turn this into posh flats and sell them at £1 million a piece, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's probably still a bit of that going on, but I think there's a few people that are sticking to the guns and saying no chance. And then there's some other people that are saying, there's a couple other areas that are very industrial and it won't get renovated because they're just kind of just on the cusp of being decent enough for industrial, and they're in. There's sort of the back end of every city. There'll be weird little pockets of undesirable areas of just like falling apart industrial buildings that people forgets about. But they make interesting finds for when the doors open. You can go and have a look.
Yeah, it's funny those. It's good. It's good to see sometimes when you get. I mean, the town nearest me, it's to the kind of east of where I am. There are parts of it that have been over the last. We've been here now, kind of well over 10 years, and there's parts that have kind of been flattened, and now they've quite a lot of blocks of flats, 5, 6 stories, nice-ish flats. They're close to the railway station, so serve well for people going up to London. And it's good to see that kind of land that was kind of wasted, where industrial sites had been knocked down well before we arrived, been used. And there's big set of old railway buildings, big railway yards that are in a hell of a state. Potentially going to be renovated. The planning is, and I don't know what the timescale is, for there to be studios for one of the big streaming companies, worldwide streaming companies. Nice. So which is obviously going to bring in a massive amount of jobs, and there'll be a massive service industry to go with that. Some of which will fit with kind of things like the making side of things, because if you're producing films, TV series, as well as obviously the space to film, you need the people to make the things that are going to provide the backgrounds and the things like that, which is going to be great for the area. And it's good to see some of those buildings kind of being renovated, but then you sometimes sort of see some of them getting just flattened, and you just think, there was a building that's been stood for well over 100 years. It's been allowed to get into a state that is awful, but then it is sad to sort of see some of those things happening. But I think it's good to see things going on. It's good to see people. There are folk who we've got 2 pubs in the village. One of them has been closed since the pandemic, closed down. Pandemic started, they were struggling to keep afloat anyway. Pandemic was a free house, so no brewery backing them up. So when pandemic came, that was it, closed down. Supposedly, the rumor is that the person who kind of owns that is holding out to the point that they not the pub reopening, and there are people trying to sort of buy that, and they've raised enough money that the supposedly asking price, but that's now been raised because there's a thought that actually just wants to sell to developers, because then with the amount of space that the pub garden has got, they can put a couple of properties in and make an absolute killing. But then there are other folk who kind of, like the people you just described, who kind of go, you know what? Yeah, I could make an absolute fortune on this, enough to retire. Yeah. But I think it's more important to have people making, people doing stuff, people running small businesses, people bringing some of these heritage crafts back, or maintaining those heritage crafts, or bringing in new things. But it's just kind of the new era of making or whatever. But we're going to keep that going rather than just turn into kind of the next lot of hippie apartments. Hipster apartments, not hippie apartments.
Yeah, hippie apartments.
Or hippie apartments as well. Right, why not?
Yeah.
Equality for all. Hipsters and hippies.
I mean, there's a massive gulf in financial availability between those two.
Yeah.
Similar sounding.
Yes.
People.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But I think it's when people have those visions of that they're going to maintain things or not just give in to economic pressure, consumer pressure. It's a good thing.
It's an interesting one, specifically with things like renovations of old buildings, because that's something I get involved with work, and sometimes we'll have a project that is doing a renovation of a building, and other times it's not financially worth doing that. It's often a greater outlay for the developers than it would be for demolition and building something from scratch.
Yeah, that's it.
That's often the struggle
as well. Like the approach that some developers will take is, I think, maybe some of the, especially in the city, buildings that are worth keeping, that the kind of council are, they've fought to, maybe they've thrown a bit of money in as well to keep that building.
Yeah, I think the
building rather than just to flatten it and build a new build. Because definitely we've got an old church here, and renovating that was way more difficult than I guess it would be just to build a fresh thing the same size. And obviously old buildings, they're a pain, so they're all renovation.
That's absolutely it. Yeah,
costs more and
renovation,
takes more time.
It does exactly that. It's the challenges of bringing it up to a level of suitability before you can then make it the internal space that you want it to be. There's a lot of kind of enabling works that have to be done first and things.
Yeah,
I always fancy converting like an old church or chapel to a house, and I've seen some lovely conversions. But then you actually if you actually dig into it, or just watch Grand Designs, you kind of realize that actually there's a lot to it, and unless you've got a lot of money, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah. I think was it 2012 or 13, we bought this old church. It was a Methodist church. So it was basically just a big rectangular building with a big pitched roof. And there was nothing too fancy, just a really nice floor that was like a 1.5 inch pitch pine floor. And I managed to do it by doing all the work myself and not spend the amount of money that you would have now, at least with the materials. Back this was like it's like 10 or more years ago, so material costs were way cheaper, and I was crazy enough to try and do pretty much everything myself. And with the mate,
is that how the kids happened then? Was it you said this is a grand design, and as soon as you said this is a grand design, you became a parent?
Well, we were thinking that we were like, we could do grand designs, and luckily we didn't, because we were living in a caravan, and I thought it was going to take. We were living in a static caravan for a year at the back of the house, and no, kids came a bit longer than that. They were like a planned decision. But if we'd have said grand designs, we would have had like 4 kids. Yeah. Sadly, one of us would have died. We would have been madly ill.
The divorce, the 3 new marriages on top.
Yeah, totally. Like the most recent grand designs one, where the guy, he literally lost his daughters were like sort of 11 and 10, and they were like, Dad's going to build this pretty awesome lighthouse, and then now they're like 24, and the parents are divorced, and he's borrowed 5 million to get it finished. that was a bit of a bombshell of a hard project of how not to grand design. But yeah, I think it was an interesting, but it was basically getting stuck in, and it definitely costs more than you think it's going to cost because it's an old building, and you're just like, oh my god, what's going on with this? There's, the roof's falling apart, or you just can't plan. I've still got to build ideally 2 brand new front doors. I've just been sanding them down and repainting them every year for the past 10 years. And I just keep saying this because we want to change the colour, but Shop Dog says should be called Delusional Grand Designs. That one definitely should.
Yeah.
Some of them are. I love it when they're like, oh, I could do it in about 12 months, and then Kevin is dying with laughter. And
yeah,
I'd love to go on and just be. I think there was one guy who said, I'm going to do it in 18 months, and Kevin was like, oh my god, really? And he was like, no, I'm joking. It'll be like 5 years. And then he did it in 3 years, and Kevin was kind of like, wow, cool, yeah, pretty good going. Yeah, there's loads of people that go on.
I can't remember it, but I'm sure there must be. There's been so many episodes. The program has run for so long. There must be one. There must be one that finished on time, on budget.
Yeah, where they say
must be only the one.
This is the project scope. Here's the budget. Here's the time frame. Here's who we're going to use, and then it just every single bit of that happens, and I reckon the family stays together. It doesn't change any dynamic.
It'll be
just got that and went, oh, that's crap. Just get rid of it.
There was the guys who years ago, and that was when I was thinking about sort of, this is as a young adult or whatever at university, and you've watched it, and it was the Huff House, the German engineering where they just did the concrete slab. A sort of slightly retired elderly couple that have they're well off, so they've put their money out in a really good design and build package. And the German dudes just turn up with the lederhosen and like 20 crates of beer, and they just absolutely hammer that house together. And then they just
kind of unloaded.
It was just prefab, wasn't it? It was just prefab from Germany. Yeah.
And there was another one more recently with a prefab, a couple who they did that, and I think totally I'm on board with prefab as a way of building. And I think it's if we were to do it in the future, I think I'd just either pay a prefab company, or really the crazy person inside me the maker wants to say, I'll rent a barn and make all the bits myself. But I know now that's not a good idea. Just outsource and project manage it, and then get stuck in with the really fancy bits. Like if I wanted to make an amazing staircase, or fabricate some furniture and other stuff, do the things that make me really happy. But I'm glad I've done the build to learn. It's made me more sort of skilled as a maker and as a designer and a builder and whatever I might get up to in the future. But yeah, definitely next time it'd be do as that couple did, and you just pay your money for somebody else to do as much of it in a shed, in a covered factory. Yeah. And then it gets delivered, and then it gets put up, and it's watertight within a week. And then you can fanny about inside doing whatever.
The German one wasn't watertight within like 3 days or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Imagine that one
literally fast.
And I guess if it's built and they designed it so they've got all the windows ordered, the like 10-week lead time on jazzy windows, everything just turns up like 1 day build, next day windows, interiors. That would be so good to be a lot of planning, but it'd be like you could put a time lapse on, and then your house is built by the time it's finished within 3 days.
Well, I mean that's how really McDonald's restaurants are built. They're all just built in a warehouse and then just kind of dropped in place, and
amazing,
kind of just sealed up, and they just put a bit of trim around it and then send the staff in.
Sweet. Yeah, that just keeps them means they can make as much money as quick as possible, keep the business rolling, or start the business up. Yeah, it's clever.
You can pre-make
the supermarket do the same. They don't take over some other building and kind of refit it. They flatten or find some other thing, and then just put in something that is basically, they're not all exactly the same, but they're so similar Yeah, there's just small
you just
variations on, right, we're going to have the
can't
door
get it wrong.
on this side
Yeah.
rather than the other side, and everything's just like standardized. And
Yeah.
Definitely the way to do it.
This batch production, pyramids were prefab by aliens. Yeah, that is definitely. They definitely, some sort of foul play went on there, and they've 3D printed with a massive sand 3D printer. Somehow,
so there was a study done a while back. I don't know how sort of rigorously it stood up to kind of peer review and stuff. But there was a study I read probably 12 or 15 years ago now, maybe, talking that modern analysis of the of some of the techniques used and some of the stone used suggests that it was actually more like a concrete rather than a kind of
rather than cut blocks,
rather than quarried cut blocks. Yeah.
So they could mix it maybe on site, quite close. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether
so maybe it was aliens. Yeah.
Sintered
blocks. Yeah.
Or time travelers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that documentary that talked about all that whole thing about the Goa'uld attack vessels that came in and used them as kind of launch platforms and stuff like that. That documentary, Stargate.
All right. The documentary. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to remember which one it was, but I'm not a Stargate kind of guy, and I wasn't quick enough there.
So friends of ours will be shouting at the podcast.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Brilliant. I'm just thinking. I mean, you've sort of sold us, your ADHD, and it's something we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
You think that desire to learn all those sort of skills kind of possibly relates to that? Because I think about some people, there are people I know that kind of work in the trades, who they do their trade.
Yeah.
They're not interested in doing anything else. They're not interested in kind of they're a plumber. They're not interested in doing electrics or there are some, yes, they'll do stuff but some people, no, I'm not doing some block work. I'll just get somebody else to do that.
Some people are just there's like a friend's dad who's a decorator, and we use him for stuff at work, and he's come in and done our house as well because it's just way quicker and more efficient. And he's just a decorator, and he just is like pretty chill, and that's just how it goes. But definitely think that ADHD has played a big part of why I've always been so inquisitive and wanting to basically learn that next skill. And it isn't just about, okay, I'll just master site woodwork or whatever it is. I don't think I can't, you guys have said it before, on maybe with Sean, and it's the jack of all trades and master of none, but a master of some is better than none.
Yeah.
Or one. Yeah. And I think that maybe deep down was playing a part and thinking, okay, well, this just isn't the end. You've built this thing, or even just having that ADHD brain that says to me, right, well, we've built a stud wall, so what goes in it? What's next? What goes on it? What's on top of that? How do you plaster? Plastering's the most stark art as well that I've had a go of. I really enjoyed I've enjoyed my couple of days plastering. I got a mega sweat on. I absolutely love plastering, but I wouldn't ever try and charge people money for it. And it's good enough, like the plasterers in Sheffield say, it'll take paint, which I guess means it doesn't look that good. And so mine takes paint pretty well, and I don't think it needed sanding too much because I've polished it quite nicely. But I wouldn't want to do that every single day of my life, as a trade. But some people, like you say, some people will master that and be like, right, okay, this is my trade. And then, but I guess there's that element of it's repeatable. They don't have that mental load at the end of the day. They can just do that job, do it well, sign off, and just enjoy something else. that isn't making. It could be making, but it could be something else. So there is
Well,
something
I
to be
think if
said
you were
that
to
there's
look at
a freedom that they might enjoy. They might have that freedom.
If you look at like commonalities of, other people's hobbies, if you were to take the kind of the obvious stereotype of Joe Bloggs on the street, maybe football and drinking and whatever else, and say to them, would you like the opportunity to try and earn a living playing football and going drinking?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they would all go, yeah, I'd love to turn my hobby into a business and be paid for it. I think we just picked hobbies that we can potentially earn money from.
Yeah,
that difference of like we could make it a job, or we could make a thing to sell, or we could have a business.
Whereas
that
some
we run.
people have that where it's a hobby. Or like you say, like football, becoming a professional football player is a very different thing to being able to watch professional football. And some people might have been there. It's not one of those things that I would want to take down. I played a bit of football in the past with a few mates at university, but not to any sort of good level, and I wasn't interested in it at all. And ball or competition sports didn't really get me going. It was about, I don't know, maybe there was maybe some rules there that I didn't learn, or I didn't find a way of asking how. Like I actually played hockey as a kid, and it's because I had this little like Weetabix guide, and it said basically the rules of the game. And so I read it cover to cover and just figured that out. And then I was able to play it. And it seems like there's enough rules, but there's enough creative freedom. Whereas football's got a lot of opinions and a lot of people who already know all those rules. So I just checked out when I was just like,
wasn't
I'm
enough
off.
of a challenge.
Well, it was kind of, or
and
it
who
was
can
like,
solve the offside rule? I mean, it's just like,
well,
daftest rule.
There's maybe there's too many people who knew too much, and that's another turn off to learning a skill. It seems like making and designing and the trades as well, because I've kind of extended that into doing tradey stuff as I've renovated houses and new tradespeople. Some people might stay away from that and be like, oh, trades is a dark art, I can't get near that, and they'll just stick to making as a smaller thing, as a sort of smaller web. But I've thought, okay, well, I can get in that, I can talk the lingo, I can do a bit of something, and if not, people just they might see that I'm chatting an absolute load of rubbish at certain things, but then I've got enough passion. Whereas, certain sports and other stuff, there was just not enough passion there to carry through. The people would chat and be like, the offside rule. I'd be like, no chance, I haven't got a clue, I'm going. And so I just found I gravitated to more towards making and experimenting with stuff. And definitely the ADHD, now I can see it looking back, has been probably that reason why I've never settled with one thing. It's always been, well, how does this relate to the next thing? And
chasing that dopamine high, isn't it then?
Yeah. And it's tricky to know when you're on a high and for the journey, and when you're on. I think I can understand it a little bit more now. Before I would go down. That's why we've got loads of kit set up for making certain things or certain hobbies, and it stays there in a box because you think, right, I'm actually set up for this, but no, okay, I don't want to turn 100 pens. I just want to make 3.
Yeah. And I know I've got a 15-minute window where I can do this thing, and I can do one of these in 15 minutes. So if I leave it all set up forever, when I get that 15 minutes to go and make a pen, and I'm also in the mood to make a pen, and I've already got the materials and everything's already prepped, and I haven't got anyone else telling me that they need me to do something else.
And there is stuff dumped on top of the lathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can find the pen blanks.
Totally. And then it becomes a list of excuses, of kind of like, not excuses, it's just like the list of like, well, I could do it, but there's a few things in the way.
I have done that before. I will fully admit to it and own up to it that I have I have gone to do a project, like realized there's something in the way, like a box that's in, on something that I needed to get to or whatever. Lifted the box up, turned around to place it somewhere else, realized there's no other flat surface big enough to put the box on.
And that's
and
it.
The only place to put the box is back on the thing I was about to. So I've just placed the box back and then gone and done something else instead.
Yeah. Amazing.
That was me today with the tin fridge. I didn't want to make something. I was looking for something. It was just like walked in. It's like, right, I think it might be up on that shelf. Wasn't on that shelf. Looked around. Literally turned 360 degrees,
and then
walked out again.
You're off.
Basically. It's just
amazing. Yeah, I've just seen Donna's comment here. Sport is falling asleep. That's pretty much. I'd watch some football, and my dad would have it on the TV, and I'd like be asleep on the sofa as a kid because of the white noise of that like roaring crowd. And then lino printing. That just, I think that I feel like I'm not artistic enough to do something that I could produce. That's where my making ability, but then cross it with an art skill, is really tricky.
So lino printing's a bit of an interesting one though for that, because I think the problem we have is that we undersell our artistic ability because we want it to be as perfect as we would want to have.
Yeah.
And I think something like lino printing really lends itself well to people who don't have super high-end artistic practiced skills, because having the extra little bits of character in there and things kind of make it what it is.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. But I also agree with kind of the first point, because I've got stuff for lino printing. And I did some because my youngest was doing a craft course for a while, but there was some issues with the administration of it, and she wasn't getting the feedback that she needed, so that was leading to kind of not being able to progress. So in the end, we just went, look, it's causing too much stress. We won't do it. Because what I didn't want is for it to become, this is causing so much stress.
Stressful.
Making is not a thing I want to do anymore.
Yeah.
So we got stuff like that, and I've kept it because I want to do the line of some. I did some with it because it was like, right, we're going to learn how to do this. We'll get the stuff. Got one of those starter packs from Hobbycraft or Amazon or the like, and it's like, right, we're going to do this. Did some things. We did some printing onto fabric. We did t-shirts and bag and paper, and still got covered up there. Inside it, there's a bag. It's got the thing on it. It's great. We did a few nice little things. She did a few nice little things. And it was a case of like, we've got a few, the lino board, we've got a few pieces of that left. And it's like, it's that deadly thing of, and I've got the same with some wood. I've got the same with some metal and some other bits. Like, this needs to be something special to do this, and I need some time, and I need to think of something special to make best use of this, rather than just going, well, actually, to get another bunch of that, then it costs £5, 10 quid, and I can get a stack of that, and I can get the ink. And it's not expensive really, but it's just like, but I've only got this lot at the moment, and it's like,
you need a project, Andy. That's what you need.
Yeah. Well, I've
got thousands of projects. Well,
you needed a deadline for a specific project.
Deadline, like I wanted to make some t-shirts, and I thought instead of just getting one printed, I did it for the both ring. Like we changed the name of the ring business, so it was Sheffield Steel Rings when we first created it at start of lockdown. And then it morphed into Flynn and Steel because we didn't offer steel anymore. We offered titanium and some other metals, tantalum and cobalt, tungsten. Right. So I thought actually it'd be awesome to just print loads of merch. So I had a couple of screens kicking about that I got a friend to do. They run a screen printing business, and I got them to do all the UV cure process on the screens. And I went ahead and bought the £2 t-shirts. Which are the same t-shirts that cost 18 quid. And it's fair enough. It's a good way to make. I think most makers that are selling t-shirts only make a couple of quid because of the logistics of the business. Yeah. But I was like, okay, cool. We can print some mainly for me to work in the workshop. So I've got some Flynn and Steel t-shirts, and a couple of mates have got them because they wanted to be part of the team and the gang. And then some of the gang actually at work have got a couple of hoodies for videos and stuff. But yeah, I like that element of doing 10, maybe doing 15, and then just packing it away and forgetting about it for another 6 months. It's kind of like a mini project that I don't really want to get into screen printing too deep. It'd be pretty cool to do it and have like one of those, where you
carousel
carousel, and a full frame. That'd be amazing because you can just bang a t-shirt onto it, perfect, and have a heat oven set up that it rolls through. But I just put my t-shirts in the tumble dryer for like a year, and it just cooks them to death, and it bakes it on. Put it in for like an hour and a bit, and it bakes it on. But yeah, little mini projects that you can kind of complete and go, right, I've done that, awesome, I can wear this and make, it becomes a useful thing, and then you can just crack on. That's kind of like it gives you a little spike, a little high, doesn't it, that you can see an achievement, and then you can just roll on, put that hobby or that skill to bed for a little bit. That's the cool thing about having a lot of kit. A lot of makers have got a lot of little bits. DeResta's he's the guy who's got basically every single thing going, and he's able to monetize that by making things that he can sell, and then making merch that pays the way, which is great. And those massive Stanley knife blades look really cool as well. I think I fancy making one myself, just because I probably don't want to spend however much it is that he'll sell them for.
Yeah, ditto.
But yeah, there's those little things that you think, right, that's really cool. And having the tool set up, I think maybe we just need to brand it that it's for the next generation. And if the kids wanted to do some lino printing or some screen printing, then I need to keep that kit. So you can't get rid of it. So actually, I've come full circle from our Makers Anonymous amnesty to now I've just got to keep everything.
Now you see, it's a slippery slope. That's why me and Andy are the way that we are.
Yeah, definitely. I tell you what that caught my attention this morning, and I'm not diving straight into the attention grabs, but somebody posted in one of the Facebook woodworking groups a picture from a workshop, somebody in the States. And I've seen a tour of this workshop, and it's just one of these kind of it's a really good sized workshop with multiple bays. It's almost like a factory. It's quite tall. It's like an industrial unit, a large kind of barn or something. But it's been set out. It's predominantly a woodworking shop, and the guy who's made it has clearly put a lot of effort into making high quality shop furniture. Yeah, his furniture could go into a kitchen almost. He's got stainless steel tops. He's got amazing cabinets, glass fronted with things. He's got beautiful sets of drawers. Whatever. And this place is pristine. And a few of the comments, a couple of there was people going, "Oh, he obviously doesn't make anything. There's no proper shop." There are a few jokey ones like, "I bet he can't find anything" and stuff like that. He's clearly got a lot of stuff. I've seen a full workshop tour of it, guy. It's an amazing shop, and there's no way you can't not be a great maker to have made this shop. And I'm sure he makes fantastic things. And I'm sure at times it is covered in sawdust and the like. I know people going, "Oh, yeah, it isn't." You see some makers on YouTube, for example, and like my shop, everything. Every surface has got flat surface has got stuff on it. The floor's got stuff on it. But this place, there's a place for everything, and everything is in its place.
Amazing.
And it's just like it's an amazing shop, absolutely beautiful. Possibly not my dream shop. I've seen sort of other shops that have kind of. I'd probably prefer something like Laura Camp's, where you've kind of got different areas, and you've got metal area, and you've got wood area, and you've got big benches, and got some nice mezzanine storage and like. But it's the kind of quite a few of the comments were kind of it can't be a real shop, it can't be a real worker if he's tidy like that. And then he's thinking, well, actually, maybe this guy, he's a woodworker, but actually he's really OCD. Yeah, he wants high quality stuff, but he wants everything in its place, and he wants things nice and neat.
Yep.
And I was thinking, like, I don't think we always. I mean, we talk a lot about neurodiversity, and we've sort of discussed it. I mean, we're not psychologists. We're not we don't have training. We have experience. We have friends. We've got people, friends that have been diagnosed. We've got we've talked to a lot of people with neurodiversity or with knowledge of neurodiversity. And I think there's some the majority of makers are messy, and we're often busy, and it's often something we tuck in. So cleaning up isn't always something that happens. But I do know of a few makers, and I've been in workshops where it is the floor is epoxy and nice and clean, and everything is kept clean, and it's got good extraction, and everything has a place. And it's just it's well lit, and it's there's not things. It's not just all made out of pallet wood. It is made out of good quality materials, good quality worktops. Not necessarily expensive, but just nice and tidy, almost like a lab rather than what might be called a traditional workshop.
Like you'd say, that that space that was so kind of clinical, almost. People say, "Oh, they're not a maker. They couldn't make anything." But actually, he's probably a really successful person because they've got the money to design exactly what they want. They've got the money to probably spend on the fabrication and outsource it, or all the time to build it themselves. So actually, it's like a real good reflection of success in a business that, and that's
totally,
it. Back when I was running my business, that was one thing that I didn't have. It was just pure unorganization, because it was just like, right, you finish this project, smash a load of stuff on the shelf. Certain areas are really clean because you clean the bench every project, every day, every whatever. So I had a couple of good clean spaces to put materials on and off of. But under the CNC machine, the day I got it, I cut something, and 2 years later when I moved out of that workshop, that sawdust was still the first thing in the sedimentary layer, and that was just because I didn't fancy getting underneath the machine. And so I've in this shop now, I've created like a little dust gutter and made sure that I can clean it a bit easier, and it doesn't get within, because this is an aluminium frame. That's the only downfall of this sort of designer machine, is that anything you cut, there's no fixed solid cabinet below. It's just this hole that gets fluff and other stuff under. But I think, it'd be so nice to have the time to design, or, the time and the money and sort of a success in whole of life, to be able to be like, right, okay, this is what I want for my workshop. Not too clinical and messy enough that you can trash it, but easy enough that you've got loads of storage and you can just sweep the floor at the end of the day and it looks pretty smart. That's pretty... so it's funny people saying, "Oh, he must not make anything here," but you're like, well, he's probably just done the glamour shots either before he started, or he's just showing you like, this is what you could aim for at the pinnacle of lab. Because school and university, that was pretty not clinical, but there's like brand new benches all over the place, epoxy floor, like you say, everything's swept and hoovered by a team, because there's budget there to do it. And we'd trash it, and you'd have like somebody sanding away. I'm pretty sure one girl was making like a model of a airport trolley, and she used like a load of timber and about 4 to 5 pots of two-pack filler. So she'd just like be sanding for about 3 weeks constantly, just sitting there sanding away to try and get these contours and these lines of all these parts blended in. But then the next day it'd be like cleaned up and it'd be swept, because there's staff in there to do it. And so I think there's something to be said about super precise workshops. It can show a bit of OCD, but it can show like a success in designing that, or they just know from experience of where stuff needs to go.
I mean, there's a sort of, I know Andy was saying we're not sort of actually really going on to attention grabbers, but the one that I was going to bring up is a video from this week from ClickSpring,
right?
Who's a phenomenal YouTuber, has made some beautiful clocks, and he's currently in the process of making or remaking the Antikythera mechanism, which is just a phenomenal series. And people have been kind of reaching out to him for like shop tour videos and other things over the years he's been on YouTube. And the way he films everything, it seems like he's got this big, gorgeous, massive, expansive space that's got all of the machinery in it. And he did a zoomed out shot on this video the other day showing kind of what he's working with.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. It's super tiny. It is, he can step in, and if he bends over too quickly, he's going to be sat on the machine behind himself. It's really, really, really tiny space, and that completely blew my mind to see that, having watched him for years and seeing the stuff he makes, to then see that this entire time he's been doing it in a shoebox.
I was going to say there must be 2 feet between machines on either side.
Yeah, something like that.
It really wasn't a huge amount of space.
He's making tiny little things. I've not seen any of his stuff recently, but a few years back, my friend had shown me him or them as a example of very high end engineering skill. And
super precision.
Everything's so tiny and zoomed in that I suppose you wouldn't get that appearance of any scale of a shop, whereas I guess you can't get away from that in a normal workshop if you're building something pretty big, because unless you've got a massive facility, everything looks massive within a normal workshop. It's brilliant. And then who else?
I think there is the danger of you take somebody like Adam Savage and his cave. I'd love to visit. It's an amazing place. I mean, as he admits, he needs more space, and he has to do something about the space that he's got.
Yeah,
and you see how much stuff he's got crammed in. I mean, it's a good size, compared to certainly a lot of UK-based workshops. And he's got an office there, and he's got there's some other bits to it that we don't see in the videos. But if you watch some of the older podcasts that he was doing,
right, you
can kind of know that there's a bit more space. There is a kind of a meeting room. He has an office. You see that in a few of his videos, but predominantly his workshop is still a good sized workshop. But he has an awful lot of props and things he's made in there, as well as a couple of workbenches, lathes, mills, laser, woodworking stuff, metalworking stuff.
Yeah, way too much stuff.
And materials. And because he uses a huge emphasis on kind of that first order retrieval, every tool pretty much is close at hand, apart from a few that are in cupboards and drawers.
Right.
And it's an amazing place. I'd love to go and visit. Absolutely love to go and visit. But there is, he's definitely ADHD. He's definitely. There is that kind of, however much space you've got, it's just going to get filled with more stuff. Yeah,
totally. I think that's a battle they had on the Mythbusters setup that they had in that the shop is like massive racking with loads of written down.
M5. Is it M5?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
M5,
and they'd have like huge racks with heads for things or dummies and other stuff, and box of feet. And I guess they had to do that because they were running like a prop shop, weren't they? And it makes sense.
That was all like fabricated by them as well. They just they just engineered the shit out of it, and then just basically ran through and like there was I think it was either a behind the scenes thing, or they might have discussed it on a Mythbusters episode.
Yeah,
of them just like the whole team just like batching everything out. Yeah, and then just basically spent like a week solid just welding the entire that entire racking system is just this. It's like all just welded to the wall. It's all this like they just like batch cut everything, and then just everything went in its place.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that is one way to do it. To just know that you just tip everything out on the floor and start again, basically. And yeah, I guess
Doesn't go in the
I've
box, you can't
started
have it.
to slowly do that in grey Euro boxes. I got really excited, and they're like 600 by 400 plastic boxes,
Yeah.
about 100 mil deep, so they fit enough stuff that you can
Yeah.
load the hell out of it and still carry it. Whereas there's some deeper ones that are like 220 or something. Actually, they're in the corner there. Which way? There we go.
Yeah.
A pile of them there. That's how unfortunately they've got is like 12 high. And I've put finally after like 2 years of doing it, I've put some 4 casters onto a scrap bit of wood. So if I wanted to, I could wheel it around. But I've just left them there. And I made sure that the workbench is enough for, so like 1 deep one and 1 skinny one, or three skinny ones. And it worked pretty well, but it just means the bigger ones, when you load it up with like a load of drills and other stuff and bolts and other rubbish, it becomes a bit of a dumping ground. But it's good to have all that they fit in the back of the van, and then you can just take them to the office, basically, where I've been working, making the showrooms and stuff. So that's been one, because I could never get with toolboxes. Like, I don't want to spend the money, 30 quid on a Festool box. I see the value, but I don't see I see the use, but I don't see the worthwhile value of throwing 30 quid. Actually, I think there's a Makita box that side that I got with this new sander, and they were only about 12 quid each if you buy 3 together. So that's doable.
That's not bad.
That's doable to buy, like, 50 quid's worth, and then I'll have 4, and I could put all my go-to tools in, like drills, and have a place for some screws as well, because there's that crossover of like having screws and having a hammer and a drill and everything together, and then they just explode, and then it's just a mess. And so
I think if you're going out on site, you need to kind of have that ability to kind of go, right, I need tool storage, I need material storage or consumable storage, and I need portability, and to a certain extent security, not necessarily from theft, but kind of just keeping you want the screws just going absolutely everywhere,
knocked over, and like losing 5 boxes of screws. That was it. Like I'd work on a project here for a couple of weeks, couple of months now. It's been with this one, and then I will go and install it, or because we've got 2 showrooms in the office, so it'd be installing it there, or doing various other stuff. It'd be leave the workshop with many tools as possible, and then try and have them all with you, but then also try and bring them back and put them in the workshop again. And
so then you've workshop tools and van tools and tools.
Basically I just need to have 2 sets of everything, and have one that sits in the van, one set that sits in the van, and one set. But then that's like, every person is a maker. It's taken years to accumulate all the random. I've had a mate, Andy, who worked with me, and he's in his like late 50s, and has got a magpie approach to everything. So he would go to Car Boots and be like, "Oh, you didn't ask for it, but I brought you this big box of random stuff. Here, take it." His like love language, his gifting language is just give you stuff. And I love it, because 50%, 40% to 50% of that box was useful, and then the other side I'm like, oh, but I can't throw it away. And maybe 5 or 10% you're like, this is absolute junk, I'm just going to chuck it away, or give it back put it in his car when he's not looking. But there's been.
You're going to get it back again next week.
Or literally like some things. Go on. Sorry, Andy.
I was going to say something I've noticed about myself. Obviously, I've described many times my difficulty with getting rid of stuff that is in the tinkering.
Yeah.
Or here. But I've past kind of for almost a month now, I've been going back to my local men's shed, which I started going to back in 2019 when it first opened up. I was one of the founding members. I've been reminded.
Amazing.
But then kind of COVID hit, and I stopped going, and because we got hit with COVID towards the end of 2020, and then so we got hit quite badly with it. Wife had long COVID, has long COVID. Relative became very ill, and so I didn't go back until essentially this last month. So, and I've been spending quite a bit of time when I've been going. I like to get, some people go and they just go and they have a coffee and they have a chat.
Yeah.
I like to get into the workshop because there's space, and I've been spending time organising. They've got a tool wall, and it was very messy. Everything basically, it was lots of hooks and nails, and things just hanging on them. And I've been kind of collating things together and making holders for. There's one for Phillips screwdrivers, one for plain screwdrivers, one for pliers, and
awesome,
and the like. And it's going to be flexible, so they can be moved around, and they will get moved around because I'm not happy with where things are. And basically, they've said, well, yeah, you're doing a good job. You just get on with it. But what I've found quite easy is because like any men's shed and probably any kind of, and you get this from schools as well and things like that. Yeah, people have donated tools, whether that's kind of members have brought in. Yeah, I've got these things are spare. And I've just bought a new drill, so you can have my old one. There've been a few cases where people have gone, look, my dad died. He had a workshop full of stuff.
Yeah.
None of us do anything. You can have the lot.
Yeah.
And so they've cleared out a few workshops from that kind of thing, and they've collected things, and some things have got passed on. But then it's kind of like, I find it much easier to kind of go, look, to go to one of the committee members and go, look, you don't need 4 number 4 planes. This workshop isn't big enough to have. You don't have enough bench space for 4 number 4 planes. These 2 have got plastic handles. These 2 have got wooden handles. These are older and nicer, and they need a bit cleaning up. But these ones can go. And these saws here, we've got 10 saws. Okay, there are different types of saws, but these 3 conventional, fairly modern plastic handle panel saws. These 2 are blunt. There's no point keeping them. And this saw here is kind of really high quality hard backs saw, dovetail saw, whatever. It's in a bit of a state, but this can be sharpened and reset, and this is should be a very good tool. And look, we have 25 slotted screwdrivers. We probably need 2 of each size, maybe, a long one and a short one of each particular size. So now we're down to 8, and it's been very easy for me to kind of go to them and go, look, you don't need this lot. You don't need this. And they kind of go, okay, we'll put that in the box, and we take that to another men's sheds for opening up locally, and they can have those and take their pick and pass them on, and so it may end up going to the tip, whatever. But we're like I went through all the squares they had and kind of like, these 2 are not square.
Yeah.
Very easy to kind of go, it can go now.
Yeah, if it's someone else's.
For me, no, it's like
there's some sort of attachment of like that. It's difficult. I guess maybe it's the wastage, and then you dare to do a job. Regardless of what you're getting paid for it or not, you're the guy who has been allowed to do that, and you've got that kind of. It's not a deadline, but I guess it's like the kind of outcome is, let's make it as functional as possible. I mean, I'm trying to get that first order retrievability. I mean, they've got all the chisels are in a drawer. No one's going to use chisels if they're in a drawer. So I'm going to get them out. I'm going to get holders for them and get them sure. Once I get holders for them, I'll get them sharpened. Get holders done first. It's like just bench space is just covered. What did you call that process?
Of
Adam Savage's
first order retrievability.
First tool.
First order retrievability. So the idea that you can grab a tool, it's going to be in a place, and you can grab it. You haven't got to pull something else. You haven't got to go in a drawer. It's just something.
Yeah, you don't have to open a drawer or move something out the way. Or lift something up.
It's literally
It's just.
So he takes that to the level of also, portable tool storage. So if he's working on something, he has that kind of, he'll have something next to him, and he can literally go, like right, I'm doing soldering. Cart. So there's a box full of all the soldering stuff, and it's just next to me. Or I'm working on something, there's a rolling cart, next to me, and there's spanners, screwdrivers, pliers, whatever, ready to hand.
Did that with the electronic stuff that I was just doing to wire up the LEDs in this, and it just happened that the best place for my soldering iron and shrink wrap and other bits of wire is all in the same place. So it makes total sense. You just get that stuff out, go for it. And I can see, like I've made a set of drawers here that I'm sat at for the CNC, and it's now got stuff that I need, like spare bits, spanners for the machine. And then there's another drawer which has got more or less used stuff. But before I had it like I had two bedside cabinets, one on top of the other. So there was 4 drawers on like a bread cart, one of those red ones you nick from Tesco. And I had my laptop sat on that. And so I'd be like, this was back in my workshop years ago. So I'd be huddled against this laptop, do all my drawing there, do everything. And actually, this is more like a standing desk here. And it's got one laptop for my old Mac that is signed into YouTube and never has any adverts. So I can never turn it off. And it plays music for hours with uninterrupted, which is amazing. Something's going on. Somebody's getting charged for it somewhere. I don't know, but not me. So I get music, and then I've built a CNC wall behind me that's just got like my computer. So this is kind of like fairly organized part of the workshop, but because I know that I just need somewhere to write dimensions down and the tools to use the machine and the laptop, like a mouse, a laptop, and a controller. So it's so good to know. It's just doing that process over and over again. Like you say, Adam Savage is like, right, I'm going to use these 10 tools, so they need to be right next to me.
Yeah.
And then you're not walking back and forth.
And the tools you need together. I mean, this is one of the things like in the men's shabby, sort of like, the bandsaw they've got a really nice Electrum, I think, bandsaw. It's old, but it's like to open up the bandsaw, you need to use a screwdriver. It's like a screwdriver. Similarly, the planer thickness that they've got, to change the planer thickness around from a sort of jointer to a thickness, you need to use a screwdriver. And there's the other things in Spanish, like I've sort of said to them, look, we need to make sure, let's get at some point, once I've done the tool wall for these tools, anything that's needed to change the tool around needs to be on the portable stand with it. So you don't have to go looking for it.
If we were James, then he'd have some shadow foam with a drawer below it with every tool that you'd need just pulled out, and it's all there. But if it was me, I might go for stretchers like a screw on the wall, or a magnet if I could push. Actually, that's right. On the lathe behind me, that side, there's the same set of spanners. There's a couple of spanners, and then there's like Allen keys that live on that lathe. And if I need another Allen key, I can't touch those Allen keys because they are, unremovable Allen keys. They live on that machine.
The keys
Otherwise,
for that tool,
I couldn't have done batch production stuff if I'm buggering around trying to find another 6mm Allen key halfway through. You've literally just got to have one there and have a spare in case you drop it. It's brilliant. I like that.
A lot of merit to that, definitely.
Yeah. We've kind of headed towards sort of attention grabbing. We've got a couple. So towards the end of the sort of show, we kind of sort of talk about kind of things that have been kind of grabbing our attention. So what's been grabbing your attention lately? It can be projects you've done, are about to do, books, videos, anything. We have no kind of limits on what
I reckon
it might be.
Probably a couple of things tie in together. It's been knowing that, I've started splitting and cutting some firewood because the in-laws have had a load of trees thinned down in their little bit of woodland behind their place. They've got like a little field and a bit of woodland. So I was like, right, okay, I've got some chainsaws, but they're just not good enough. So the potential that a chainsaw can offer has led me down a large and winding road of, YouTube chainsaw milling kind of journey. And actually there's a guy called Flowering Elbow on YouTube, and he is a guy probably somewhere in the Welsh kind of, maybe mid Wales, I'm going to say. So where you're, Andy, you're not too super far away from there, are you? Are you?
I'm in Kent. Yeah. I was brought up in Wales, but I was brought up in Wales. I'm Welsh by the way, but I live in Kent now. At least for the time being.
A bit farther.
Might end up back in Wales. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he's basically, I think he must have grown up on a bit of land or a farm with his parents, and him and his wife live there or quite close. And so every tree that's fell down, he's basically worked out the best way of making a chainsaw mill and turning them into boards. And he's just got a really good engineering, techie kind of approach to it, but in a really nice way. So, and he's got a sort of a book that you can buy. I think it's about 11 quid. I'm going to buy that, and it's how to get the best out of a chainsaw mill. And
Cool.
so, yeah, that's been something that I'm thinking about. Like, I could upgrade and get a decent chainsaw that will cut firewood and do other random, because I've got literally sitting looking at some big logs that are saved from when they were putting up a Tesco Express 5-6 years ago in Sheffield, like our local one that I'll nip to for beers and milk. And there's some birch actually. It must be like 40 centimeters in diameter, and now it's going to lend themselves to a cool little side table or stool.
Nice.
So I need a chainsaw to cut that up. But then I thought, well, if I get this chainsaw, I could go the next level and get a bigger chain. So it has been a little bit of trying to understand if I'm reining in an ADHD moment, or if I'm going to project, or if as an adult you're allowed to think 5 years ahead and think, actually, if I buy a decent one, it'll serve me for when I need to chainsaw mill something in a couple of years' time. I'm trying to sense check if adults do that, or if it's just ADHD brains that are like trying to reason why they should have something.
So my friend refers to that as bloke
Yes.
maths. So yeah, my friend's husband, he'll quite often do that. So he'll go, oh, well, I would like to get this, but for a little bit more, I can get this one. But while I'm getting that, well, I may as well do this, and then
you may as well upgrade.
What was going to be, a 50 quid purchase to do one job has then cost him 1,500, and he's ended up with everything else. So she refers to that as bloke maths. That kind of, I need a thing for a thing, and then you've quadrupled the cost and gone down another rabbit hole. But he could well also be neurodivergent. So
yeah, I think that's like I've got a small chainsaw, and I basically spent 20 quid on some chains, and it cut really well. But actually, cutting a lot of wood might need a bigger one. And I was like, well, actually, you could go for a Chinese copy version, which could work. And there's a lot of YouTube videos on the high-end still version versus this fake one, and it seems to hold up. But I'm not mechanically minded enough to be able to rebuild an engine, so I'm thinking, man, that doesn't kind of work out. So there's been a good battle of like, is it ADHD just saying, I need this, I want this, I must have it, and is there a logical reason? So yeah, that's kind of funny. So maybe chainsaw milling will be in my future. I definitely know that I'll enjoy the fire, so any offcuts of logs is something that I'm passionate about, and but then also wanting to save these massive pieces of trees that have fallen down, or they're getting chopped up. They'll cut. There's another guy on YouTube called Bucking Billy Ray, I think he is, and he is an amazing, crazy Canadian dude. His kind of vibes are like, I'm going to cut this massive tree down, but be kind and kind of treat each other with respect. And he's a really unique, interesting bloke. And his videos are quite out there, but watchable, but also they're like something interesting to see. And he's a guy who's just there with like a collection of these old McCulloch chainsaws that he's been a logger for 40 years. He's got about 100 chainsaws, and then he'll go out and just like fell a massive tree. But then there's these huge diameter trees of 60, 80 centimeters. And they're just getting turned into firewood, which, yes, fair enough. That's an industry, and it happens.
Needed, but it's also
it's needed. But also,
timber.
I'm thinking, wow, and I think the kind of going rate to buy a big fat chunk of a tree at 2 meters by 1 meter is about 180 to 200 something quid. So it can be, there's a lot of labor that'll go into turning it into an actual tree and then air drying it and stuff. So it actually, on the face of it, looks like you can enter that industry, but it's a pretty dark art as well. But I think it's something that I want to slowly explore, because I know that it'll take 2 years to dry something out. So if I'm making some tables in 5 years with my own wood saved from Sheffield streets, then that's like pretty exciting. as a slow burning goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
then yeah, go on. Sorry, Andy.
I was just going to say, you've got the space to sort of put them and let them dry. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's possibly using a bit of woodland, or negotiating a deal with some farmers, or using the in-laws field or barns and kind of cutting a deal of like cutting some firewood for storage of some wood. But everywhere I go now, I'm kind of, this month I've been looking around thinking, wow, that tree, if it's on the floor, I need to find a way of getting it and cutting it up. And yeah, so that's kind of what I've been playing on. And then finishing off this next thing that's catching my attention is me getting in this workshop and finishing off this sushi counter, which we're calling it, which is a sushi train, a sushi track that will be a jewellery display. And so I'm so close. We've removed the deadline, which is kind of one of those things where I think it allows me to do a better job on making a better product for the high-end jewellery we're selling, engagement rings and wedding rings. But it has meant that the deadline slipped a little bit, and so that's why I've removed it. It's got to get done as fast as I get it done. But it'll be pretty special. That's what these crazy Jesmonite tops that are in the background, the little terrazzo kind of speckled look. You guys have accompanied me on at least 4 to 6 hours worth of sanding on previous
whole
podcasts.
episode.
Actually a whole episode. I've had from start to finish sanding. I've had you guys, I think definitely with Brett, chatting about films and everything you guys chatted about. And then that's who else I was referring to before, is the 3 northern makers, isn't it? Or 2 northern
Steve
makers.
Bell,
and and so that was good. And kind of just basically sanding whilst having a chat, and then nodding and going, oh yeah, definitely I agree with that, and then realizing that we're not on the phone together, you're having a chat, which is brilliant. So and I reckon hopefully there could be some go
on,
say that again.
No, well, I said that's what we're aiming for. Yeah, people just we're just having a walk.
I think it's good. And the same with your neurodiversity episode. I was driving somewhere a couple hours, and that was amazing, because it opened my eyes to not being the only person with ADHD out there, but also to how everyone else has accidentally found out, or on sort of how they've discovered how the brain works for all various what we all might have as differences. And it's just it's fascinating to learn about that, and to kind of, there's highs and lows with every journey, but it's great to kind of be there with all you guys that are in, because it was a packed show. There's was there 5 or 6 of you guys? Yeah, there wasn't there.
5,
and so that was great. And obviously following everyone who's in there, and learning about who they are as makers and creative people. So that's you guys have been grabbing my attention, which is great to be here and to be having a chat. And that's good. And I reckon we touched on it earlier on, just Star Wars again, learning about what's going on in the Star Wars universe, from being fascinated as a kid, and then kind of shutting that book or that door when I was maybe becoming a teenager. And then 20 years later now, going, oh my God, this is amazing, I've got to get my kids into it. And like we were saying before, buying the things that I wanted to buy. Like, I had the Millennium Falcon, and I was desperate to bring that back from my parents' house. So rekindling my love for Star Wars. That's been a big attention grabber. And then I guess maybe next thing could be doing getting involved with some Evolution Power Tools stuff, because I spoke to Vicky in an interview.
I saw that.
And I know they do for a couple of makers, a couple of projects. So I talked about it, and then because my schedule is one of those ones where I'm, could be doing one thing one week and the one the next. I just need to book in a few days to hopefully do a project with those guys.
That'd be cool.
To make some furniture, which could be pretty exciting, and using some of their new kit, because they've gifted me a few products in the past, which has been amazing. It's like a mitre saw and a table saw, and I've used those on projects years ago. And so I'm super grateful for that. But testing out their cordless stuff could be really cool, because they're going to sort of compete with the other power tool brands out there, but not in price, which is good, because they seem to, they've got that niche in the market that they're going for more entry level, but actually there's some pretty impressive kit on there that I'm excited to. I've got a friend, Lee, who is one of their product designers. He's actually on part of their videos as well. And so I've had a good chat with him, and he'll chat to me for hours about all the new tech and all the new features, which is pretty exciting.
Nice.
So I can kind of geek out with him when I visited him recently up over they're in Sheffield. So that's another reason why I totally am on board with them as a brand, because they design it, Lee, I know from 10 years ago, just after I graduated from uni, we met. I think it was in this underground bar that you have to knock on the door of a printer's, like a graphics company. And if you knock, you do the right knock, they open the door, and then they're like, yeah, cool, come through the print shop. You walk past all these like paper and flyers for local businesses, and you go down into the underground Club 60, it was called. It was super cool. Brick arches, and he's there like singing some rapping, he was. It turns out he's a product designer, and then
nice,
so good. But sadly, that's one thing that they've flattened now, and they've put a container bar, like a stack of containers that's got a couple of small businesses in and a bar on the top. So no, I'm not loving them for getting rid of super cool. That was like a piece of history for people from Sheffield for like probably about 20 years or so. You can chat to anyone. He's like late 20s to late 40s, and maybe a bit older than that. They'll have been to Club 60, and they will have partied there. Yeah. Anyway, that I'm waffling now, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to.
That's good. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been thinking about, looking at and watching the past couple of days, and weeks, and probably month or so.
Well, we look forward to seeing what happens with evolution. Yeah, and what comes from there. That sounds great. Yeah. Jamie, what's been grabbing your attention apart from click springs?
Yeah, I've just been a bit of nerding recently. Just kind of chipping away a little bits and bobs, kind of ongoing projects that have been sat there not getting enough attention, really. Like hopes and ambitions of, got a new server a few months back, and I was like, oh, I must do this. And then suddenly the other day just had this like breakthrough of, now I know how I can solve the problem. So just lots of little bits of tinkering away at things, and just gently nudging some projects forward. That's where I've been at.
Always a good thing to do.
How about you, Andy?
Me? Look, I've done some tidying. So if you compare, for the people watching, if you compare that shelf to last week, it's significantly tidier up there than it was, and the shelf above, which you can't see, but there's a shelf above that, and my desk is a lot tidier.
Much
there's
better
still
for
some
the
mess.
visual
Yeah, I'm not going to show you I'm not going to describe what's the state of the floor underneath my desk or either side of me is, but there's
amazing.
Some stuff has moved and some stuff's tidied up, so the desk is tidier. I did find I had lost some bits, and I found the bits. Amazing what you can find when you actually tidy up. Yes, like like the cover for my webcam. So I've got a webcam on that computer, and it's just like there's a little cover which is supposed to be glued in place. So it's got a little sticky thing, which I've never bothered with. I just take it off. And I dropped it down behind the back, kind of where all the cables go. It's like, I found that. So that's back on. So little things like that. So tidying. Did write some things down. Oh yes, that was the thing that's been grabbing my attention. The Hackaday Supercon is just taking place in the States. Where they're showing some of the live streams of some of the talks. I've been watching a few of those. So this being this weekend, and there's some really. I mean, it's kind of electronics, predominantly electronics, but not purely electronics. So listened to an excellent talk by Helen Lee on textiles and electronics. Sophie Wong did another one, similar sort of thing, 3D printing and materials. It's just amazing, what some of these kind of hackers are doing, kind of the good type of hacking as opposed to the kind of naughty, horrible type of hacking that kind of, certain
security breaching
country state agents do. It's just there's some great, it's nice to see it. Seeing kind of people like I've got the name, Paul from Pomeroni.
Paul Beach.
Kind of watching him sort of on Twitter or Instagram, sort of going out there, 30 hours of traveling to arrive.
It was like a 35-hour train journey or something. Yeah,
it's just absolutely crazy, and it's just like, but it's just such a, it's almost like sort of, I think, Maker's Central on kind of very specific steroids, because you've got some immensely clever people that are focused in kind of one particular direction of making. Whereas Maker Central is kind of, I think, Maker Central is living to its name. It's in the middle, and there's just this whole range of making. But I think it's more like kind of Maker Faire, big emphasis on electronics, big emphasis on kind of interesting materials, exotic materials, rather than the kind of more traditional wood and metal. It's just, I like that sort of stuff as well as wood and metal and other bits. So that's been interesting, and it's been a stack of talks that have been live streamed, which you can then obviously dip into. So that's that's been the thing that's been grabbing my attention. And avoiding, actually, I successfully managed not to buy stuff in the Pomeroni Halloween sale, because there's a sale on. I was like, ooh, and a few things appeared that were like, ooh, that's really interesting. Somebody sent me a link to.
They've got a couple of
unicorn
really
display.
things.
Yeah, that was your fault.
I know.
But also there's kind of Raspberry Pi 4 came into stock, and there's a nice little robot bots type thing, which is kind of be a nice little project, and it's just like, oh, and then there's Halloween 10% off. And I had a pile of stuff in my the basket, and I emptied my basket instead of buying it. So, not very
good on you,
proud
mate.
of myself, but I was like, I understand a good deal. Yeah.
You missed out on one of the many deals that they have.
Well, this is it. I figured there'll be more. There'll be another one come up at some other point. It'll be fine.
Black Friday coming up.
Black Friday in a couple of weeks. So save a pennies for them. Yeah.
All downhill from there.
Ollie, where's the best place for people to find your work? Where would you like people to go looking for you?
Most of the time it's Instagram, so it's at Ollie Allen on Instagram. And then I didn't this weekend post, but I've just before we recorded this, I've recorded the voiceover for my latest YouTube video, which apparently I made one video 4 years ago, one 3 years ago, and one 2 years ago. So I'm getting closer, and hopefully now. So I'm hoping to post it maybe tomorrow evening. I can get it up there on the YouTube place, and so I have a handle of Ollie Allen again on YouTube, and then maybe I'll get my website back again, because I think that from years ago has expired. It's the same one, as my name, but it's just died. So pretty much finding me on Instagram, that's the best place to find me. And then YouTube as well. It'd be awesome if people could check out my YouTube videos. And the goal is to actually start. Well, I've got about 10 to 20 videos worth of random footage from loads of things I've made. I just need to edit them all together. So that's my plan for the next couple of months. Well, it'll be like the next 6 months or so. Just get hammering through those, the footage, and just then do the kind of April Wilkerson thing where she just has like a recap and a chat and tells the story. And then you see all the footage, and it's just there's so many things I've made that I want to get out there that might be of interest to people, and just share that process, like the outdoor kitchen that I've got here, which is probably a good couple of parts videos, because there's things like bricklaying, there's things like concrete worktops. So that's my plan, is to make 2023 the kind of year of where I do a project and I film it and it goes up there and it gets done. Say the latest YouTube video will be flattening off this massive slab that I did for a guy, Nathan, who we met at Makers Central actually, and so back in 2018 I think it was, and we just stayed in touch. So that was a week and a bit ago, maybe a week and a half ago, that I machined it for him, and it could be pretty good. It could be within 2 weeks that I've got a video filmed and edited and up on the internet. So
hey, you're showing off.
That is cool. That is outrageous. Yeah, that's nuts. So maybe that is something to aim for. And then getting the rest of my videos up there. That's my plan. I'm really excited about that, and kind of looking at it positively rather than like, oh my god, I've got so much footage that I've never put up there. That was the running joke in the family for like the past 3 years. Have been like, are you going to post anything? Are you going to make use of those SD cards full of video that you've spent hours recording? I'm like, yes, I am. The world needs to see me sanding. I'm going to cut out
ASMR sanding.
Yeah. Well, I might. There was a chainsaw guy who I think he worked with a company, and they technically had all of his what do you call it, IP, his intellectual property on his, because he'd use their laptops and their GoPros to film it. And so they said, make some more YouTube videos. And he was like, I'm a bit less inspired than I was before. So he's gone it alone. But he basically made an 8-hour video of a chainsaw just ticking over. And he said, please watch this because it'll help me monetize my channel. And he had probably about 200,000 followers on his original channel, and he's probably got about similar now. So
fantastic.
It worked. But I'm not going to ask anyone to watch ASMR sanding. I just would like them to join me on the journey for making random things and tell me what they do and do what we normally do with YouTube videos. And just see what I've been up to, which is exciting. I want to share that with other people.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, we look forward to it.
Cool. Yeah, it's good.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have a chat.
Yeah, it's been great. Really good fun hanging out and spending some time with you guys. And I'm sure I'll speak to you soon. And fingers crossed, I'm going to book the time to go to Maker Central this year. So
fantastic.
I missed it last year or whenever it was on.
This year. Yeah.
We had a gap of about 10 years, it feels like.
Yeah,
when the world stopped.
Yeah, totally. But I'll be there, and it'll be cool to see some older faces that I've seen before and meet some new people that I've met on the internet and can see them in real life.
Yeah,
which is why we all do it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Well, we'll say goodbye to folks, and we'll see you all next week. Oh, bye.
Absolutely great. Cheers. Bye.